Bohanon goes empty. He keeps. He's got the angle. He's got the pylon and the score.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
3rd and goal at the 8th. Bohanon looking. He's got it. Touchdown, Taquan Thornton.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Now he'll run it with a block. Splits. Bohanon! Touchdown, Baylor!
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Here's Pollard. Over to Pollard. Put it on. Carlson. He gets past him. Look at Pollard taking it for the touchdown.
Here's David Smoak and Paul Catalina.
Good afternoon on this beautiful Monday throughout most of the state of Texas. We are, it seems like, in July temperatures, heat and humidity, and it's May the what, Paul? The 9th. It's a week or so into May, and it's beautiful. I love this kind of weather, though. I'd rather have this than the cold, rainy, spitty stuff that we get on occasion. But I don't know what it's like in West Virginia where we have fans, or in Provo, Utah. Or in Florida. In Florida, Paul, what do you think? Hot, muggy, sunny?
Yeah. Although May is not too terribly bad in Florida most of the time. It's kind of okay.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Okay. Yeah, and then Markel, Scotty B, Joey, all of them opening up. Lee, Buttercup, everybody saying hi off the top of the show. Great to have you with us today on the chat room. You can also be a part of the show today at 254-339-1122. That is the text line as well. The biggest story basically today, we'll have a guest at 3:30 who covers USF, the Bulls, from the Tampa Bay Times. Joey Knight, who covers USF, spoke to Gerry Bohanon. He's decided he's, of course, in the transfer portal since the week after Baylor finished up their spring game. and he is going to play for USF. Paul?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting move. My top 5 today is about Gerry Bohanon, but for those of you who don't stick around for it, I'll kind of jump into some of it. I think it's an interesting one in that, look, USF did not have a quarterback really last year. The guy who finished the season and started the most games had more interceptions than touchdowns. He can go in and step right in and do a lot of things for them. Jeff Scott needs some stability at that position so that he can develop a younger player. Jeff Scott needs some stability in that position so he can keep his job. USF is trying to get some things done, like building a stadium on campus and maybe even moving into a Power 5 conference, one that is very close to the one or maybe the exact one that we cover on a daily basis here in Waco. But so who knows? But Jeff Scott needs someone. And if I were looking for someone who maybe is not going to light up the stat sheet all that much. I mean, you're not getting C.J. Stroud here, but you're getting a guy who had more touchdowns than interceptions by a large margin last year, can get out of trouble pretty easily in the pocket, can make a lot of things happen with his legs. And while, again, you're not getting C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, but you're getting a pretty darn good player who's won it some big-time games at the Power 5 level. I think this is a win for USF, and, it's a good spot to land for Gerry Bohanon.
I got to be honest with you. I did kind of dig around, looked at a couple of comments when Joey Knight put up the story about Gerry Bohanon. And there were at least some of the fans on the response of his timeline wondering about what it meant for their quarterback room as far as maybe some young quarterbacks they have. And that's why we have Joey Knight. We'll let him kind of discuss that with us. And your thoughts as well. The text line, 254-339-1122, plus the chat room is open as well. Tony Altimore, remember back in the fall, had that huge graphic presentation about many things when it came to expansion, about where certain schools were based on graphics and historical perspective, and also right now, whether it's academics or whether it's TV or whether it's whatever. Marketing, by the way, yes, and he was fantastic. He's going to join us today at 4:30, a strategy consultant. This is not about so much expansion, yet it is. It's about which schools have benefited the most, and the ones we know who have benefited the most from expansion are making the cut, and then some that didn't. Some made comebacks. TCU is an example. TCU made a comeback. They got relegated outside of the Big 12. They got better, and they joined the conference, of course, back about 10 years ago or so. And then there's some, like, for example, Rice. But he's going to go way back to some schools that we didn't even know. I didn't even know were on the cut line. Could include like Idaho State compared to maybe Wisconsin. Certain cut lines and where those schools are now compared to the ones who did make the cut from way back to all the way where we are now when it comes to college expansion. Tim Brando at 5, David Hellman 5:30, Paul's top 5 as he mentioned. And then also, Armstrong, do you have the horse race? Now, this is going to take just a little bit. And, Stuart Mandel and what is article number like 25 or so nationally about NIL and the NCAA and what they plan on doing, retroactive to anybody that's been breaking the rules. And we know all that will go to court if they try to do any of that. John Moss is former sports director at KTUL-TV in Oklahoma, in Tulsa. His father, Randy, is the voice of many things horse racing and an analyst for NBC. He's going to join us at 3:45 because he's got a little perspective on what happened, what we saw. This is unbelievable. The last maybe a third of the race at the Kentucky Derby on Saturday.
Zozos is next after 3/4 in 1 minute 10 and 4/5 seconds, and now Epicenter comes splitting horses and is moving up quickly as Crown Pride takes the lead around the far turn. It is Crown Pride battling with Messier. They're stride for stride. Epicenter and Zozos in behind them. Cyberknife swings up on the outside. Sandon gets the rail run, and they're into the stretch. And it's Messier, Crown Pride, and Epicenter is coming up on the outside. Epicenter has taken the lead as they arrive into the final furlong. Sandon is coming after him. Epicenter and Sandon, these two, stride for stride. Simplification down the outside is next. They're coming down to the wire. Epicenter, Sandon, Rich Strike is coming up on the inside. Oh my goodness, the longest
That is, I've seen, there's all sorts of comebacks. First of all, it's 80-1. Only got in the race because somebody pulled out. Another horse had to be taken out of the field. He made, and I don't know much about it. I love watching the Triple Crown and sometimes even the Breeders' Cup. How he maneuvered his horse through what looked like a BB gun, like a keyhole.
Do you know what it looked like to me from the overhead angle? You ever watch like a movie that has a motorcycle chase?
Yes,
that's what it looked like. Yes. He's just going through, and you think about the strategic decisions that some of the other riders made to move when he was behind them, because they just stayed where they were, just on their current track.
So you think they felt him coming up behind him?
I don't know. Or, I mean, part of it is just like, okay, I need to. They're trying to make a judgment call on where do I go to get faster, and so they move. Especially that first, like the first big wave of everybody kind of going to the outside, and then Rich Strike can come up there on the inside and just dart, and then he had tons of open space on the track. Like you see it right here. So
watch what he does.
He's in the bunch, and then it's just, I don't know if it was luck or skill or whatever it was.
Okay,
but
here's the part right here, though. He splits these two, right? He's about to split.
So they go to the right, and there he goes.
Yeah.
So he's got all this track in front of him.
Right here, watch this right here. He absolutely just splits them.
Yeah.
It's just right there.
Yeah. And it was
act like we think we know.
But
it's just
incredible. To me, it's kind of incredible that the way that those things happened, because maybe they did feel them, or maybe it was just like that was their strategy and he took advantage of it. Plus, you've got a horse that nobody really knows much about.
Yeah.
And, sometimes, with a horse, I'm sure he saw like, hey, I'm just going to go as fast as I can. My favorite part was afterwards, it's like Rich Strike knew exactly what happened. He won the Kentucky Derby. And it's like, look, I'll bite every horse that comes up to me. You back off. Yeah. I won the Kentucky Derby, son.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. Hey, he was the adrenaline of Jennifer. The horse found another gear, and the jockey steered him in the right openings. No question. A friend of Jennifer Witcher on the chat room, a friend was at the Derby, put $2 down on Rich Strike. I think that probably was worth $160 based on the 80-1. In fact, that's like 162, whatever. Crazy, absolutely crazy. And I just think it's pretty cool. Again, there's 3 races. I don't know if Rich Strike will do much in the Preakness, and then of course there's the Belmont. But it was really a great story on Saturday. The chat between Paul, Craig, and me, we were back and forth, and it was just nuts. And so we'll have, again, John Moss will kind of help explain it from his perspective as somebody that follows horse racing a little bit more. Jennifer said $163 is what a $2 bet. $163 is what a $2 bet was worth. Now, Paul, we could do this every day. I know that you guys may have done it on Friday when I was out, and we could do it no matter who's doing this show. The NIL. Stuart Mandel and also Nicole Arbach with another story. They're looking at the possibility that they're going to go back retroactively and start hammering people for using the NIL as inducements. They have no chance in hell of this happening.
They can't punish someone for doing a crime that they know that they did for sure, or that was already on the rule was already on the books. And the problem with this is there's so many layers to it. One of them is that if all these people are abiding by the state law of whatever state that they're in, doesn't matter what the NCAA says.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at all. So the NCAA could come in and tell us that our show is not NCAA compliant, but we're compliant with the laws of these United States and the state of Texas.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter what they say. And I mean, I know that's just kind of a stupid example, but they can't do anything about it. Plus, if they really sue, there's going to be their antitrust exemption is going to be in trouble. It's going to take, and that's going to take years to get. Plus, if you look at the lawsuits in the past, both Alston and the O'Bannon lawsuit, 7+ years. Is the NCAA going to be around 7 years from now to really fight this, or are they just doing like? And Craig and I talked about this on Friday, and to me it sounds like they are trying to say like, oh yeah, we know, we care, we do, but ultimately there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, this is like, okay, you know what? This is getting out of hand. What should we do or act like we're going to do? The NIL fight is here. That's the name of the story. We could write one of these every day. The NCAA, of course, remember, lost 9-0 in the Supreme Court case, the NCAA versus Alston. Brett Kavanaugh, Supreme Court Justice, the NCAA's business model would be flatly illegal in almost any other industry in America. And so that's a daily thing. That is a daily thing. We started off talking about Gerry Bohanon. He's on his way to USF, and we'll have a writer, Joey Knight, on that here momentarily. And, in fact, in the chat room, a couple of people from Tony Price, man, I hate seeing GB go. What an exemplary young man. Well, I will be pulling for USF next season, too. If you look, and I think it's fair to say this, and I'm sure others who cover programs, if you look at the last few years, the kind of young men that have come out of that program. And, oh, by the way, 95%, even back in the day when they had some struggles off the field or struggles with various scandals. You know, you get to know these collegiate athletes. And Gerry Bohanon is right there at the top of being a great student athlete, a tremendous young man, a great teammate, and he was a hell of a quarterback. He may not, again, as you mentioned, he's not C.J. Stroud, but they were 12-2, and he started most of those 12 wins.
And he's a lot better than what they had. And their quarterback play, with the here's the thing about the transfer portal. USF, Gerry Bohanon, I'm sure they've got a couple of their guys. Their offense can be amazingly better and might be worth 3 or 4 wins to them just like that. Mm-hmm. But, you know,
although their schedule.
Oh, their schedule.
I've seen their schedule.
Their schedule's not great.
It's insane. It's got Florida, Brigham Young, among others on it as well. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see how they maneuver that. But good luck to him, and I wish him the very best. I wish selfishly that he stayed, but then again, it's his career, not ours, not mine, not yours. It's his career, and good luck, Gerry, in helping the Bulls through a very difficult schedule, but also getting a chance to be a starter under, as you mentioned, Jeff Scott.
BYU at home, Florida and Louisville on the road. Those are back-to-back weeks. Then at Cincinnati, at Houston, SMU at home, at Tulsa, and UCF at home. So Jeff Scott's going to have a lot of tough times this year. They've got a really tough schedule, and that's not to mention who might be better on this list that we didn't even mention.
Absolutely. And so it's going to be an uphill battle, and so we'll see what happens with him and Joey Knight. One of my first questions is, what was the depth chart like? What was the quarterback room like? And what's been the reaction to him arriving? I did again see some of the fans at USF saying things like, man, what about, and I don't remember the names, a player's name or two, and whether or not they'll stick around now that they have a veteran who's coming in to possibly be the starter. I want to say this to college fans, and this is really any sport, doesn't matter. You know, I actually saw a couple of things, and again, message boards, you know, you got to take that for what they are. I have one, I own one, and we work for one. It's part of the umbrella of Sikkim 365. Message boards sometimes can be unbelievably insightful. There's a lot of people connected. They really are. There's some of them act like they are, but there are some that are incredibly connected. And I am sick and tired of fans who want to bitch and moan about players and question their integrity or who they are as people or how loyal they might be because they decide to enter the transfer and go somewhere else. And this goes back to even the reaction to McCullough at Texas Tech, or even some of the reaction to Gerry Bohanon. There was actually a post, and again, I'm not going to give the person any credit because I don't want to use his name, who said something about, screw you, you leave Baylor, you're done. How many of the players on the Baylor men's basketball team that won the national championship came in from somebody else's school? How many players from last year's offensive line, defensive line, that really helped control who they were and who others were, came in from somewhere else to help them win the Big 12 championship and a Sugar Bowl? If you're one of those people, you're an idiot. You need to stick your head in the sand and keep it there. Because if you could only be a one-way street when it comes to the transfer portal, oh, great, Siaki Ika's here, mwah! But if somebody else leaves, oh, he's a traitor. How stupid and hypocritical. And, you know, fans can be fans. That's dumb. You're dumb if you're that kind of person. Yeah, you can be hurt by it. You can think maybe, what's going on here? I thought you were loyal. But then you accept the next transfer the very next day and everything's great. I don't understand it.
He's also going to a place you're never going to see him. I mean, like, they're never going to play. Gary Bohanon is never going to play against Baylor unless they, in the next 2 years, they get way better and play each other in a bowl game. I don't understand why you would do that. Like, it stings when a guy leaves, but, there's no loyalty.
There's no loyalty, and you a fan, and yeah, you wear your whatever color, purple, green, red, crimson, gold, whatever it might be. I don't care, black. And you act like you own these players. It's just dumb that you get so hot and bothered when a player decides to enter the transfer portal. I have seen a little bit of this when it comes to Matthew Meyer. And Matthew wasn't perfect. He surely wasn't flawless. There were times someone who covered Baylor, I'd go, what's he doing? And yet again, they may not win the national championship 2 years ago without him. Probably don't. And it's not your career, it's theirs. As long as the rules allow transfers, as long as the rules allow the NIL and transfers. And yeah, it's not something that I like it combined without any, as someone gets mad when I use this term, guardrails. But I don't understand how you can be so blinded by you love transfers to help whatever program, whoever program you like, and yet you then get a little bit almost demonic when somebody decides to leave the program you like. It just, to me, is just nuts.
But I go by the rule of don't get attached. Don't get attached.
You know what? I'm getting better at that.
Don't get attached.
I'm getting better at that. And by the way, if your school was doing, and Gary Bohanon didn't leave Baylor because he was mad. He was, I'm sure, devastated, disappointed. Maybe there was a little bit of that frustration. Gary Bohanon left Baylor because he lost his starting job. It was a fair fight. He was incredible for them. And if he decides to go to USF or Oklahoma or Arizona State or Colorado or Missouri, God, I hope Gary Bohanon has a great season. I do. And I have a favorite team. Paul has a favorite team. Craig has a favorite team. You have a favorite team. And there are some you go, man, what's going on here? And then you got to check yourself. It's their career, not yours or mine.
Smokey, look, you and I have worked together for a long time, but people across the viewing audience across the country, have you ever worked with someone who you knew either because they were vocal about it or you could just tell in your office was going to be happier working somewhere else?
Yes.
Not that you wanted them to be fired or quit or anything, or it was, or you got to a point, and look, we've gotten this point with producers and people over the years where when they came to us and said, look, I'm going to take another job, I was never mad. I was like, oh, this is going to suck for a couple weeks. But if you've reached a point where, and we're kind of dealing with here right now a little bit, something you guys will find out later on, but there are times when people raise to a level of, you've got to go to the next spot. We can't do anything for you anymore. We've done all we can for you. We've reached where we have as a team, and you take to the next level, and it's good. That's how I feel about the transfer portal most of the time. Now, look, if you're sitting at home and the phone rings and a guy from a different school says, hey, I'll give you $1 million to leave the school right now, and then you call your coach and be like, hey, I need $1 million, then that's a little bit different. But if you're in a position where, like Gerry, you lost a quarterback battle in the spring, you have 2 years of eligibility, and at best, right now, even if he won, and Blake Shapen would have been in the same spot, at best, for the rest of the time that those two guys are there, it's a quarterback battle.
Yes.
And so one of them was going to have to leave, not because it was not that definitive. No, because it was close. So if it's that close and you feel you can start, go somewhere where you can start and play, because had he decided to stay and play 2 more years, the next 2 years would have been exactly the same. Every time you slip up, the other guy comes in, you get injured for 2 weeks, then you're back to, should we be starting the other guy? And go play.
It's interesting as well, and I know it's 2 different scenarios, but when Gary Bohanon decided to enter the transfer portal, I think, and without a specific number, I think there were probably those who said, no, we're probably more nervous about the depth at quarterback at Baylor, and who really have great respect for Gerry. And he started 1 year, and not even a full year, but he was really, I just love the kid. And when Charlie Brewer left, there was kind of a little bit of attrition, mental exhaustion. The 2020 team was so bad on offense. It just didn't connect. And I'm one of the few that got to know him pretty well, even though a lot of people said I didn't know him enough or enough about him. And it was like, God bless, go. And then a lot of it, Charlie Brewer, I know there were some teams that were pretty good. I don't want to go back down Charlie Brewer. I'm just using this as an example. You like pick and choose who you think's okay to transfer. It's their decision. And Charlie, of course, 1 or 2 games at Brigham, at Utah, boom, he was gone. And they were really good without him. And it didn't work. And his career's basically, it's over. And with Gerry Bohanon, I wish him well. Eric Galko, who's an NFL draft scout guy, he tweeted out something about Gerry Bohanon's future. And we'll try to get him on at some point this week to talk about it. And even when they leave, we still keep up with them, and we will still continue to talk about them. Here, I'm going to quote this. I'm not going to say the guy's name. I don't know this person. It's a message board comment. Baylor men don't quit. If you quit the Bears, you never really were a Bear. No love for transfers. To say otherwise insults Baylor's culture. I'll have none of that. And yet you slobbered in probably some very strange and probably awkward ways about a guy named Butler or Maceo Teague or others, right? Don't be that guy. Stop. Don't be that person. All right, when we come back, Joey Knight covers USF, the Bulls for the Tampa Bay Times on the story with Gerry Bohanon, kind of the discussion he had with Jeff Scott, the head coach, the decision, what's the quarterback room like, what's been the reaction, and more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. You can order anytime up until 6 o'clock this week on 6 o'clock Wednesday, 30-pound sacks of live crawfish. Pick them up by sometime after 4 o'clock on Friday or while they're open on Saturday morning, early Saturday afternoon. 30-pound bags of live crawfish. I was talking to a guy that I leased the condo where I live, and he was on his way back into town. I think it was late Friday. And I was kind of a little bit wobbly late Friday, but he called me up, and I needed a couple of things done. And he said, hey, I'll tell you what, you call me Monday morning, and I'm on my way. I'm getting ready to walk into a big crawfish boil. I can't tell you this for sure, but I guarantee you if it was around here and it was in Waco, the crawfish, 30-pound sacks of live crawfish from Waco Custom Marketplace. The Bauer family does a great job. They have a butcher shop and a bakery. It's open Monday through Saturdays. Order live crawfish before 6 Wednesdays. Pick them up after 4 o'clock. Fridays at Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% for 72 months with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details.
Summer driving is coming. Save now at Richard Carr's Summer is Coming savings event. Find summer savings like a 2015 GMC Sierra 2500 HD for $318 a month, or 2020 Buick Encore for $288 a month, or get a 2015 Cadillac SRX for $212 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed and kids club, 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Hey, I don't know if you heard about this over the weekend. Dickie V had his annual gala raising money, fighting cancer, pediatric cancer. Of course, we know the story with Dick Vitale. I had Scott Drew was there, and he was honored, by the way. They came out with a note, and I'm not a fan of the ESPYs. I was when it first became an award show. Then in my opinion, it got off the rails on some stuff, but that's fine. Dickie V is going to be the Jimmy V Award recipient this year when they have the ESPYs, which is in July during the All-Star weekend. The week of the All-Star game, Major League Baseball All-Star game. We're now joined by Joey Knight, covers Tampa Bay, works for the Tampa Bay Times, covers USF, and they picked up the commitment in the transfer portal from former Baylor quarterback Gerry Bohanon. Hey, Joey, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. What's been the reaction to Gerry committing to Jeff Scott and the Bulls?
Well, as you would imagine, a lot of excitement. This is a team that needs a little of excitement. They've won 3 games the last 2 years, and everybody's pointing to year 3 of the Scott era as this has to be some type of tangible turnaround on the field. So people are excited to see them appear to get an upgrade. There's also a little bit of, I don't want to say apprehension, but people saying, I thought we had a quarterback, a young guy, left-hander, Timmy McClain, was a Mr. Football in Florida, was hot and cold last year. What happened to Timmy McClain? And the way I've responded to those people in the last 24 hours or so since we've got these news, it just reminds me of a line that the former coach Willie Taggart used to say all the time to his players. He told his players, hey, we are recruiting guys to come and take your job. And that's pretty much a universal recruiting philosophy. And that's what Jeff Scott's doing. I know for a fact that They did not go out after spring portal hunting looking for a quarterback. That was not part of their agenda. But when this young man expressed some interest, became available, they were not going to turn down the opportunity to upgrade any position, including quarterback. So they made the move, and obviously Gerry Bohanon liked what he heard.
How much does this maybe help Timmy McClain maybe not have to be the guy so quickly as he was thrown into the fire with a roster around him that probably was not built up to have such a young quarterback behind it either?
Well, maybe in a previous life it would help him, but we live in a microwave society now. We live in the portal era. So I honestly don't know what Timmy McClain's thought process is right now and how he looks at this. You know, I think maybe a generation ago, Jeff Scott could have sat him down and said, hey, you know, this I'm going to do everything I can to make my program better. It's not a slight against you, Timmy. You know, this is just a chance to help improve our football team, blah, blah, blah. And maybe Timmy McClain would have taken it as, hey, you know, I'm not going to shy away from competition. I'm going to embrace this and embrace a new teammate. And maybe he will. Maybe Timmy McClain will embrace this competition and look at it as a chance for him to get better personally. But, you know, we live in a different era right now where something like this occurs. You see a quarterback or two hitting the portal a week or two later. I don't know if that's going to happen right now, and I don't know how Timmy McClain's going to respond.
Joey, you had a chance to visit with Gerry. Is that correct on Sunday?
Yes, I talked to him by phone.
Yeah. What was it? I saw a couple of the quotes about Jeff Scott and this and that. What was overall your thoughts? Anything else he may have shared with you?
He just really liked what Jeff Scott and Travis Trickett, the new offensive coordinator, he really liked their vision, and he seemed to like their passion. He seemed to really just, the way I gathered it, you know, the way it came across to me, he thought Jeff Scott was a genuine guy, a good family man, a good husband, a good dad. I think that impressed him. You know, I asked him, I said, you had opportunities to go other places that could have benefited you more in this NIL generation. If you know what I'm talking about, places where he could have done a lot better for himself individually. And he said it wasn't about that. He said football is a passion of mine, and I'm paraphrasing. He said football is a passion of mine, and when you meet somebody that matches that passion and has a vision like Coach Scott has, you know, it all clicks. You know, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he spoke about, you know, it wasn't all about getting yours in NIL. It was about going somewhere where he believed in the vision and found people that shared a passion for football that he had. You know, I came away very impressed in that short conversation. He's an older guy, obviously a mature guy who has started at the highest level. So obviously there is some maturity there, but I came away very impressed, and he seemed to me in that conversation genuine about his thoughts and intentions.
How badly does Jeff Scott need to? I mean, and that schedule's going to be hard to find 3 wins in, but how badly does he need those 3 wins to get to a bowl this year? Those 3 more wins.
I think it's critical. You know, everybody talks about the third year. You should be able to turn it around, right? He has turned around the culture. I believe he has done that. I believe he has assembled a staff and a group of players that, for the most part, seem to have the same vision. They believe in what Jeff Scott has sold them. I believe there is greater camaraderie around that program. I believe that, you know, they've got some things coming, you know, away from Saturdays, you know, not talking about just Saturdays on the field. They're building an indoor practice facility, which has been desperately needed for years. That should be up later this year, up and running. So there are tangible signs that this program has turned the corner, just in terms of the culture and the facilities. but the culture and facilities don't mean much when you're not winning on Saturday. That's the final step they got to take. And this is critical for Jeff Scott. If they don't get to a bowl, if it's another 3 or 4 win season, Michael Kelly, the athletic director, has a really difficult decision to make, because at the end of the day, it's about selling tickets, and they're having a hard time selling tickets.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I look at the schedule, what I saw, he made the commitment, and wow. I mean, they've got an uphill climb, but, he's played against Gerry, has played against these type of people with a different school, of course, a Power 5 school loaded up in the depth chart as well. But, golly, Joey, this is one where, when your non-conference games are Brigham Young in Florida, Louisville, holy crap, right?
And you do that in part to, when you're a program like USF that is on the outside of the Power 5, you need to schedule those games to make money for your program. Let's face it, and to fill that NFL stadium in which they play. But on the flip side of that, it's going to be awfully hard to cobble together the wins needed for bowl eligibility. What I will say about Jeff is they have done an incredible job this year this offseason in the transfer portal. They've brought about 11 or 12 guys in. That's not the way Jeff wanted to build his program initially. He's from the Davos School. You recruit and develop. Well, this is desperate circumstances, and those call for desperate measures. So they had to tap into the portal, and they've done it pretty effectively. And the culmination of that is Gerry Bohanon.
Is there pressure on him to win, not just because of getting the program better, but because they have eyes on a stadium on campus and perhaps conference expansion and different other things going on with South Florida?
Sure. I thought at one time an on-campus stadium was a pipe dream, but the new administration, they have a new president here at the University of South Florida, and I think her vision and the vision of the current board of trustees is to eventually build an on-campus stadium. And, of course, that costs dollars. This indoor practice facility costs dollars. That indoor practice facility was first hatched, the idea, in November of 2017, when Charlie Strong was still the coach and Mark Harlan was still the athletic director. So it's 5 years later, and it's just now coming to fruition. And why? Because it was a real struggle for a few years to get donors. So, yes, the pressure's on Jeff. If they want to do the things that this program wants to do in terms of building more facilities, more swag, for lack of a better term, and on-campus stadium, they've got to win. That's how you get boosters, right? You win.
Yep.
Put out an exciting product.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Joey, one other note, I saw this as another tweet from you. He mentioned he had interest. He visited Missouri. We had heard that. Also, had even thought maybe Colorado or Arizona State might have been in the mix, but he had interest from Oklahoma as well?
I did not ask him that. I got that intel from USF.
Okay.
They were, and trust me on this intel, it's about as high up as you can get. And I was told that they were battling Oklahoma, Georgia Tech, Liberty, for Gerry, and of course we all know he made that visit with Missouri. So there were one or two heavy hitters in there.
Hey Joey, good stuff, man, and we'll be in touch throughout the year hopefully, and have a chance to maybe hear from you again as things go on. And good luck. I know the schedule itself is an uphill battle, but would love to see Gerry have success. We like him. He's a great kid. You know that from just probably a phone conversation. You will love everything about him, and hopefully he could also play pretty well as well.
Well, I got a great first impression, and it was a pleasure being with you guys. Thank
you. Joey Knight, Tampa Bay Times at TBT at TB Times _Bulls is Joey Knight's Twitter handle, by the way, on the commitment from Gerry Bohanon. Good luck to Gerry. And obviously Blake Shapen, he has his team at Baylor after a tremendous end to last year. And then also, of course, both of them having the injury bug hit them. One gave Shapen a chance. And then the other, I always would like to have seen what would have happened. Based on the Big 12 championship game, had Blake Shapen not gotten hurt, and the second half could have been different if he would have been healthy, because he was just riddling a damn good defense against Oklahoma State. What would they have done if Bohanon was cleared to play in the Sugar Bowl? Who would have started that game? Would they have rotated them? Would it have been Bohanon or would it have been Chapin? Because the old school, which is, again, unwritten rules, I know a lot of that's out the window, would have been if you were a starter and you lost your job because of an injury and then you come back, you are the starter. Now, Drew Bledsoe didn't get his job back.
Tony Romo
didn't get his job back. And those are some exceptions. But, sometimes you wonder because of he went out because of an injury, not because of performance. Would have been interesting to see how Jeff Grimes, Sean Bell, Baylor's coaching staff, Dave Aranda would have made that decision against Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl.
I do think it would have been very interesting, especially given Blake Chapin he could have just played a little poorly in the second half against Oklahoma State. Given the way he played in the first half of that game, he would have made their decision really interesting, seeing as he was riding a real hot hand. You kind of don't want to mess with that. And knowing, even though you have, they had 5 weeks between Gerry's injury and the bowl game, and that's plenty of time for a hamstring to heal in theory. Hamstrings don't completely heal for months. I mean, it's a long injury because, it's not like you can, just start running again. You got to build up the strength again. Every little tweak hurts it. And
he didn't, he probably wasn't, he was cleared, but you wonder about how much of 100% he was against Ole Miss, and their defense played well. 7 of 17, 40 yards. He did have a couple of plays where he used his legs, and then he made a couple of key throws as well. And there was also some, whoa, this isn't going well. But Baylor won the game. They won the Sugar Bowl. They beat an SEC, a good one, in Ole Miss down in New Orleans. When we come back, John Moss covers horse racing. His father's an analyst on NBC and a broadcaster of Derby, etc., Triple Crown races. Looking back at Saturday afternoon, and that finish, and his thoughts as somebody that follows horse racing. We'll take a break for that next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. A new month is here. Allen Samuels right now, it doesn't matter what month it is. They have the SUVs. They have the Ram truck. They have a tremendous variety of pre-owned, which is hard these days. And then, of course, constantly new cars on the lot as well. They're having their Memorial Day sales event. Shop large selection of 2022 cars, trucks, and SUVs to find the vehicle that's perfect for you and maybe one you buy during this month with the incentives and discounts available as they get into the month of May that you might take on a trip to the coast or might take on a trip on a vacation, wherever it might be this summer. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Listen, they're a sponsor of this show. They've been a sponsor. I've been doing live reads or endorsements for them for a long, long time. But one of the reasons I also bought a car at Allen Samuels, a Ford Explorer, it's a used car, pre-owned car, was because of a salesman named AJ. He is fantastic. If you get there, ask for him. They have a tremendous staff, but AJ took care of me. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, in the first segment, when we kind of look back and sometimes we summarize a thing or two, and also, of course, we discuss every day as we can with the NIL, Gerry Bohanon, the USF, to USF. Yeah, that's what I said. If I said UCF accidentally, UCF fans would have a meltdown.
They
hate each other.
They don't like Gerry now.
They don't. They don't. But here's the less than a minute of the Kentucky Derby, and then John Moss is going to try to help us put all this into perspective with his history and insight into horse racing. Here it is.
Zozos is next after 3/4 in 1 minute 10 and 4/5 seconds, and now Epicenter comes splitting horses and is moving up quickly as Crown Pride takes the lead around the far turn. It is Crown Pride battling with Messier. They're stride for stride. Epicenter and Zozos in behind them. Cyberknife swings up on the outside. Sandon gets the rail run, and they're into the stretch. And it's Messier, Crown Pride, and Epicenter is coming up on the outside. Epicenter has taken the lead as they arrive into the final furlong. Sandon is coming after him. Epicenter and Sandon, these two, stride for stride. Simplification down the outside is next. They're coming down to the wire. Epicenter, Sandon, Rich Strike is coming up on the inside. Oh my goodness, the longest shot has won the Kentucky Derby.
Oh, my goodness. I got goosebumps watching that, and I know what the finish was like. John Moss joins us, former sports director at KTUL, horse racing aficionado as well. John, have you ever seen anything like it?
You know, I'm glad you got goosebumps, too, because just hearing it back, Larry Colmus with the call of the decade, I mean, that was unbelievable. Have I seen anything like it? There's been one bigger upset in the history of the Kentucky Derby, and I don't think any of us were close to being born yet. That was back in the early 1900s. So, no, I haven't seen anything like that. That horse looked like he was going 100 miles an hour compared to the other ones as they neared the line. It was incredible.
Yeah, and John, if you listen to it, just from a broadcaster's perspective, you can tell that he's setting up to talk about Epicenter.
Yeah.
Because that's what it looks like is about to happen. And then the most ridiculous 9 to 10 seconds ever happens. And it was so great. And we were talking about this earlier. Was it the jockeys in front of Rich Strike that kind of moved their horses to the outside, or was that luck or skill? What happened with Rich Strike where the seas kind of parted for him right there so he could make that jump before he had to kind of slalom through the other ones?
You know, Sonny Leon, the Venezuelan jockey of Rich Strike, rode one of the best races I've ever seen from a jockey of his caliber, and that's no knock on him. He's running at this track, this out of, in the middle of nowhere track, has no graded stakes. He's been the leading jockey there for 4 or 5 years in a row. But I mean, that's like calling yourself, there's no competition, right? So for him to ride like that, the move he made when he cut down to the rail and then swung out to the 3-path to get around the horse that was tiring in front of him, it was such a fantastic move. So you got to give all the credit to Sonny Leon. But what set that up is the fastest opening quarter mile in the history of the Kentucky Derby. Like, we all knew there was going to be speed. My dad and I talked about it. He talked about it on the air. But no one knew it was going to be that kind of speed. And so it really set up for Zandon, who was the best closer in the race on paper, but he was a little too close to the pace. And so it was just a perfect storm. When that happens, that's when you get the Mind That Birds and the Giacomos and all of these horses that are just crazy odds. It's when the race falls apart in front of them. And Rich Strike, of all horses, was going to take advantage of it.
In a golf tournament, sometimes you could have a couple of guys who will tee off last because they're in the lead or they have obviously at least a 1 stroke, but sometimes they could be up by 3-4 strokes, a leader, and they focus in on each other, and then somebody in the second or third group behind them or in front of them might go out and shoot a 66, and they may play pretty well. Is that what we saw there, them focused on Epicenter and Zandon, and no one saw that coming behind them?
Yeah, to an extent. That's a really good analogy, to be honest. If you talk to any of the jockeys, you have to give every horse in the race some amount of respect, right? Anything can happen. Any horse can win on a given day. But if you gave all of those jockeys, except for Sonny Leon, truth serum, they didn't know much about Rich Strike. They didn't know his running style. Maybe, just by looking at his past performances, you knew he'd be coming late, but it was funny. I was on the phone off and on all day with Kenny Mayne, who I met through my dad when he used to host his horse racing shows, and we were going through the different races. And when we got to the Derby, we spent about 15 minutes talking about Rich Strike. But what we were trying to figure out is how he got into the field, because he only had 1 third-place finish in a Grade 3 lower-tier stakes leading up to this, but it got him just enough points to be on the also entered list or, also eligible list. And then with the scratch, he got into the race. So we were joking, like, how is this horse? The numbers they weren't even close to the numbers of Epicenters and any of the other horses in the race, just from a buyer speed figure angle. And so there's no way that any of the jockeys, any of the trainers in that race, and he was just put into the race on Friday, mind you. Mm-hmm. So the day before the race is when they found out he was wearing the 21 saddle, breaking from the 20th post. And so there's no way they knew about that horse. The Epicenter was worried about Zandon. Zandon was worried about Epicenter. And then here comes Rich Strike down the rail. It was incredible.
What do you think his prospects are now? Seeing that, that's a fast horse there. They're all fast horses, but right. He's got that late break. What do you think will happen will he be in the next races? I'm sure they'll try to do that, but what do you think his prospects are for the future?
I think it's going to be a lot like Giacomo or Mind That Bird, mm-hmm. where you win this race that allows you access and entries into races that you wouldn't have dreamed about if you were that horse's trainer, its jockey, or its owner. He'll run in the Preakness, whatever happens there. He might run in the Belmont. He'll probably run in the Travers. He'll probably run in the Breeders' Cup Classic just because of this win. But it takes a race like that for Rich Strike to be anywhere near the front against that caliber of horses. And I don't know in any other race the remainder of this year, he's never going to see a field that big. He'll probably never see a pace that fast. So I just, he won the race, and all kudos to him and all kudos to the jockey like I talked about. I thought the horse that performed the best in that race, if you can say that about a horse that didn't win, was Epicenter because he was the closest to that crazy pace and still held on for second place. So I think Epicenter is going to win the Preakness if they decide to run there. I think Zandon is more of a Belmont horse. So I think those two that finish second and third will win the next two legs of the Triple Crown, assuming they run. And I'm not trying to, throw shade at Rich Strike. It's just he needs that perfect setup with his racing style to do what he did at the Derby.
Okay, so that went viral, obviously, and then the finish when Rich Strike and had others trying to kind of calm him down, because that almost looked violent. And was that just a horse that was full of himself and needed to get maybe a little nuzzle, or what was going on there right there? He
was a little feisty after the race, wasn't he? He was trying to bite the lead pony, trying to bite the rider of the lead pony. He just, it's all odds against him at that point, and he was taking on all comers, including lead ponies and their jockeys and everything else. He didn't look like an easy horse to handle, did he?
No. You know what I thought about?
He still had something left.
I kind of thought, because the Kentucky Derby is such a, an elegant event, right, John? I mean, you've been there. It's all, got these ladies in these hats. It's kind of like Andre Agassi when he won Wimbledon. Like that guy's like, I don't care. Rich Strike's like, listen, I'm going to, listen, you're in my way, pony, I'm biting you. I don't need you to lead me anywhere. I just ran around that whole thing pretty darn fast. What are you telling me to do?
Yeah, it's one of those, what the F did we just see? Leicester City winning the Premier League a couple of years ago, Agassi winning Wimbledon. It's like, what did we just watch? And at that point, they're just, it's hard to assign human characteristics to horses, but I could definitely see his attitude in that moment. I think we all could. Get the F off me, man. I just won this race. Get out of here.
Okay, so he won $1.86 million for winning the Derby. They bought him for what was it, $30,000 or whatever. I got a question because I don't know how this works. I know if you win these type races, then obviously people want you to they want that horse for breeding down the road. Nothing better than a Secretariat, whatever. But so let's just say he doesn't finish well in the Preakness or doesn't even race in the Belmont or whatever. How much by winning the Derby could he be worth now?
Oof. It's hard to put a number on that. I can tell you substantially more than he was prior to the Derby, 100%. I would probably say somewhere in the vicinity of 15 to 20 times more.
Okay.
Whatever that number would have been. I don't really know the specifics of the breeding numbers. If he doesn't, mind that bird, Giacomo, those kind of horses, I don't know what their stud fees are or anything like that, but there's no doubt he made his owner substantially more money when it comes to the breeding rights just because he won the Derby. He has that classic grade 1 winner, on his resume. And so he will fetch more in the shed, but I can't give you an exact number, but it's substantially more than he would have prior to the race for sure.
Yeah. All right. Again, thanks to John Moss. John, you're traveling. So are you just chilling now and you doing podcast on the side? What's going on with you?
Yeah, so I was the sports director at Channel 8 for about 7.5, 8 years. And then I decided it had run its course. And so I didn't sign my contract, went to Denver for about a year and a half just to get away, and then came back. And I now own a virtual production company based out of Tulsa. We have nationwide clients. And so I'm doing that thing. I'm still doing video in a different way and doing podcasts, but no longer on the nightly news on the sports desk.
Hey, that can wear you down. That can be a beat down, when you're at night,
Absolutely.
the 6 and 10 or whatever, and covering things. So was there a specific conversation with your father after the race about how did he describe what he saw?
He called me back. I called him right after the race. He called me back the next morning, and I said, what would you say if I told you I cashed a ticket on that race? They said, I'd call you a effing liar. I was like, yeah, absolutely. He was in the same boat I was. Here's what's funny. After the race, so I'm texting with some friends of mine that live in Tulsa, and I mentioned that the owner of Rich Strike is a retired oil man who lives in Edmond, Oklahoma, which is just north of Oklahoma City, about hour and a half, hour 45 minutes from Tulsa. My friend's wife then decides to tell us for the first time, oh, that's my mom's friend that owns that horse. She was talking about him this morning. And her name's Hayden. I was like, Hayden, I'm so mad at you right now because that's the type of information that if you play horses or you bet in it, if there's a familial, a family connection, you're going to put $2, $5, $10 on the horse, just in case, right? I mean, it's just almost like you have to do it if you know someone who knows someone who's in that race. And of course, no one did that because she didn't tell anyone that there was a connection to the owner of that horse. But yeah, my dad said the same things we were just talking about. Like, you know, he said the breakneck, just crazy record-setting first quarter mile really set up for all that, and the closers that were better on paper than Rich Strike were just too close to the pace.
Yeah. John, I have a friend from college who made $800 because he puts $10 on the long shot or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
what do you have to lose?
So he just
right?
like whatever it is, he's got $10. He just says, "I'll just put this on there," and he's willing to lose $10 every year.
I mean, at this point, I'm going to start joining him because why not? Like, if the pace is that fast, and in Derby history, it's more often than not a fast pace. So, you know, that's not a bad strategy. What ticked me off the most about that race is I had a pick 3 going into the Derby, and 2 of the 4 horses I had in the Derby finished second and third.
Oh.
So I would have cashed a ticket if that dang long shot wouldn't have come running down the rail, because he was not one of them that I had in my pick 3.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Good luck with what you're doing and the production company and much more. Great stuff. John Moss, a little more insight, background on Rich Strike winning the 148th Kentucky Derby in such spectacular fashion. When we come back, we'll get into the chat room is going on many things. We'll get into some of what you're discussing, and we appreciate that. Also at 4:30, Tony Altamore on a little bit on history of those who either who get in or don't when it's come the history of expansion in college football. Maybe a couple of interesting graphics along the way. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
You know what would make this moment better?
pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
A lot of window dressing here on 2nd and goal. Smith comes back into the backfield. They run Bohanon with blockers in front and into the end zone. Gerry Bohanon.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house. Here's David Smoak and Paul Catalina.
Just had a question, Craig, as we mentioned off the top, out today. He'll be back tomorrow. We miss him too, but it's over the next couple of months or so, there are going to be pockets of when we have to get our decompression time and get a chance to breathe and move on, or have some special projects, et cetera. Or Friday when you have 2 teeth pulled and 2 implants screwed into your mouth.
So are the implants there, or is it just like the anchor for the implant?
No, the crowns aren't in yet.
Okay.
So, and I guess I should, it was, I really started to get a little bit like, first of all, Dr. Scott Warren and his staff were flawless. There's no way you could ever prepare for what they're going to do to your mouth before a surgery, right? We know what's coming.
Dr. Scott Warren performed surgery on me, took my wisdom teeth out 20 years ago.
So 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah.
21 years ago. Yeah.
All right. When you were when?
It was when I was
half your age.
A freshman in college. Yeah.
He's fantastic. He really, really is. And so what they did, I had a couple of teeth that kind of eventually just kind of cracked, or just attrition wore down a little bit. And so they sedated me with the shot. And they make those things a lot more comfortable now than they were a few years ago. Let me put it that way. But so that was the first part. And then he's got to pull a couple of the 2 teeth that are remaining. I think it's the 4th and 5th bicuspid. Is that good language? And what then they do, they prep the gum, and they take 2. I try to use this as an example. Have you ever tried to put up a picture on the wall, but the wall's not very sturdy, and you have to put those little plastic anchors in the wall that are, what I mean? And then the screw goes in. Yeah. That goes in the end. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so that's what they did. That's the analogy. And that was incredibly comfortable. It was like no big deal.
Yeah.
You could hear the zzz, like that. It was incredible. Dr. Scott Warren and company were amazing.
I know.
Now they get, and then then I got to heal. It's on occasion I got to take a couple Advil. Mouth. I guess it was yesterday evening. I kind of felt like I had gotten into like got hit by a ball on a bad hop or whatever. Because you got to keep taking Advil if you can. And then about 3 months from now, there's a possibility that I might actually have crowns put in.
So I have to tell you a story about Dr. Warren. So when I had my wisdom teeth out, and this story has haunted me for my whole life, my dad took me. He was one of my mom was worried. My dad took me, and
your mom didn't want to be a part of it.
No, she was there at home. She took good care of me because when you have your wisdom teeth out, the first couple of days especially, they're just constantly like feeding you pain pills, and you don't want to, So I go and I have them out, and I don't remember anything past like
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1, and then when they woke me up, I remember like everybody being like, "Oh, there he is, good." You're in good spirits. I'm like, yeah, I guess so. And then I don't remember leaving because you're all kind of in a fog. Yep. And my dad drove me home. I think I slept on the way home. It wasn't too far from where they used to live there. And so then you essentially sleep for 3 or 4 days. You're kind of out. And so then I go back in for my checkup. And have you ever been in a place that you've been back to, and then they recognize you, and then they're talking about you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I walk into the room, and the receptionist...
I come into the studio every single day.
She starts to... Yeah, maybe, and it's not like that. She starts to kind of giggle. And I was like, what what's going on here? And my dad did not tell me. He didn't tell me. He didn't want me to be embarrassed. And so then they take me back into the back, and Dr. Warren comes back and goes, what's going on, lover boy? And I was like,
I know exactly.
What? I said, what are you talking? I was like, what? And so my dad, you remember him, he had this thing when he would laugh, his face would get really red. And so he starts laughing, and he says, you didn't tell him? He's like, no, I didn't tell him. And he goes, well, there's like 2 or 3 nurses that work there. And apparently, when I started to go under, I all of a sudden thought that I was like Julio Iglesias or something. Yeah, I think that's what I said. Yeah, I was like, hey, what's up? You want to go out later? What are you doing? Yeah. And like, I was flirting with all these nurses, and then out. And so then I walk back in, and then I see them, and I'm ashamed because I have no idea what I said. They were all laughing at me. And then he said, don't worry about it. Look, most of the people just, they count to 3. They don't remember anything. It's no fun for us. You've made our month. Yep. We'll be talking, like it was right before Christmas. Like, you've made the Christmas party. Yep. And I was like, I don't want to hear that.
Wouldn't you love to have that been on film? Because they have to.
Nowadays, it would be because it's easy to buy cameras to do those things. Then I don't know if it was or not, but man.
You've had a colonoscopy and you have to go under. And then you come out of it and you have no idea where you are. You just start smiling and you're kind of high as a kite. And you might say things that happen. And in the case of Paul, you did that with some of Dr. Warren's staff.
I had to go back in and see him a couple years ago. My dentist wanted him to just look at something about an undescended wisdom tooth. And I went back in. He goes, hey, you haven't been here in 20 years. I said, yeah. It's been a long time. I haven't wisdom teeth out. And he's like, why do I remember you? I said, I'm on the radio. He's like, no, that's not it. And then I didn't bring it up because I didn't want to be like, I was the guy who harassed all your nurses while I was going under. I didn't want to be that guy.
David Carter sent me a text. By the way, again, Dr. Scott Warren and Company, incredible. It's anytime you don't take care of your teeth. I've told you that with Dr. Steve Childress and Stonewood Dental. It eventually it's like a credit card. You're eventually going to pay the interest. And so I'm trying to maybe work through some of that. Right now, they were incredible. David Carter just sent me a text. He watches us on 365 Sports in the YouTube. He doesn't think Rich Strike's name was mentioned more than maybe twice in the entire race.
Well, on the broadcast, he didn't say it until in the actual race. He didn't say it until he was right there at the end when he's just like, Rich Strike on the outside, the inside. Rich Strike. He said it twice. Then
the initial rundown and at the wire.
But I watched, because Amanda is a huge fan of the Kentucky Derby. She used to live in Louisville. So we watched the large majority of the race coverage. And I can tell you, most of the time when Rich Strike's name was brought up, it was Mike Tirica going, Rich Strike is also here. That's basically what it was. It wasn't any.
See, to me, that would have been one of those Cinderella stories, like at the NCAA tournament. Somebody else didn't make it in.
The thing is, they do packages on every horse, but when the horse gets there on Friday, they don't have time to do here's the story of these owners package. Everything's already set to go for the broadcast on Saturday. That's 6 hours long. No. So that's why it was like Rich Strike just added, and then. If you're NBC, you're thinking, well, why do we need to do anything? He's 80-1. That's where he's going off at 80-1. It's not going to matter. Nobody's going to wonder about this thing. So now you get to go back and go, how did this happen?
Well, if he runs in the Preakness, which is the second leg of the Triple Crown, whether he finishes first or 20th, or it won't be 20. Again, the field was huge, as John mentioned in our segment. But there'll be a feature on him that will be a heavy-duty feature, and over the next couple of weeks until they run the Preakness as well. Stephen Vaughn, a couple of notes on the text line, 254-339-1122. I'm so happy for Gerry Bohanon. I hope he can enjoy the last 2 years of his career, feel good that he got the most out of his opportunity at Baylor if he doesn't get to be a pro quarterback. And then also this one, I had a colonoscopy. And as we rolled in as I rolled in, the camera was on the table next to me as I came in. I looked over the colonoscopy camera. I looked over, they said, and I said, is that it? And the doctor said, don't worry, it also bends. And that's all I remember. And then he was out. Stephen, thank you very much. And then also from Archer, hard to overstate the value of a good dentist, no question. I believe you as well. And here's Archer Quick on Kentucky Derby. Again, it's a huge – the broadcast didn't even have a live shot of the owner's reaction.
No.
Because they all, like if he was there, Bob Baffert or whoever, there's going to be cameras, like set cameras. And then there's a few of them that are kind of rotating. They did not, they go, hey, what owners do we need to have a camera on? That was not the one they were going to have like a set camera or what. And so that's awesome as well. Just a lot of you on the feedback of the Kentucky Derby. So show memo. People have no clue of horses and how they can be ornery. The meanest horse we had was a Shetland pony. I would never think of a Shetland pony as angry or ornery or a little bit not fun to be around. We'll have Tony Altomar today in the next segment at 4:30. He also sent me some new graphics. I don't know if we're going to be able to use those or not, but we might.
I sent them to Armstrong, and Tony will be able to share the screens and all that.
Tim Brando at 5. Tim Brando, I sent him a text. I said, hey, I know it's late notice, but you want to come on the NCAA trying to put that genie back in the bottle? He goes, let's do it. 5 o'clock, Tim Brando, and then David Hellman, NFL and Cowboys at 5:30. Now, is there anything else? I was at the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame banquet Saturday night. It's amazing, and we had a lot of the guests on. Joey McGuire was great with Craig and Paul on Friday. We had Colt McCoy. We had Rodney Allison, Ray Rhodes, among others. Think about the connections here, and I never really put this together until I was listening to some of them speak and reading their bios. Dick Stafford's at Temple, a player and then a coach, assistant coach under Bob McQueen. The coach for Ray Rhodes at Mejia was Bob McQueen. Then you have the Texas connection of Tony Brackens and Colt McCoy, different decades. But then you also have Cedric Benson was at Midland Lee, which is now Legacy, and of course, he was a part of UT history. Shea Walker, Port Arthur Jefferson, where Craig and Jennifer's football coach when they were there, when they were at school at Lee, named Mike Owens, coached Shea Walker, and I texted him at the banquet on Saturday. Shea Walker, of course, now does color analyst with Craig Way on the what would be Bally Sports, the high school football games. So there's a connection there. And then also there was one more connection as well. Joey McGuire is at Tech. Rodney Allison's at Tech. And then there was one other connection, but it's like there was this like almost spider web of all these stories that were intermixed among those who were inducted. And the very last, Robert Wilcox, in his mid-90s, has been doing Iowa Park, PA, and all that for 70-plus years. He was freaking great. Just fantastic. And he's the contributor to the game, the Dave Campbell's contributor to the game. He was absolutely fantastic. John Parchman's the one that broke up the room the most with some of the jokes that he had that he talked about as well. One of the note, Jennifer, again, the trainer is the one who has the real feel-good story, lost his barn, about 20 horses several years ago in a fire. I did know that story. Almost quit the sport, bet he's glad he didn't do it because he's now the trainer of the Kentucky Derby. When we come back, Tony Altomar, he'll tell us about kind of the history of expansion, conferences realigning, conferences dissolving, where some teams might have been. Who were some schools back in the day that were almost a part of any kind of expansion with the big Power Fives this day? Or some conferences that used to be a part of what now are the Power Five that merged with others. That's next. Tony Altomar, Sikkim, 365 Radio and 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. In the Central Texas marketplace, they have a beautiful business. They have state-of-the-art technology, the MRI machine, and a great staff of specialists and more. And here's what I loved about the 2 or 3 times I've been there. One, getting an appointment set up was very simple. They will also help, react to your schedule. Normally, you react to whoever's giving you the MRI, right? Because of certain hours. But they will make sure they work it out with you. I've even had an MRI after the show's over, maybe even like 7:15 or so, as they waited around for me to be able to get over to where they are, just on the southern part of Waco off I-35. Also, $497 or less every single MRI. Remember, I said $497 or less every single time. They'll help you with insurance, get that set up, and you might even get more taken off that price. And on top of that, the average MRI is well over $1,000. In fact, sometimes can be $1,100, $1,200 or more. Dr. Rob Maxey and the great staff at Ideal MRI, also a sponsor of Academic All-Stars. We honor those kids a week from Wednesday here at the Baylor Club in Waco. IdealMRI.com.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, we're committed to taking care of our customers, and that means having as much new inventory on hand for you to choose from. During the Memorial Day sales event, shop our large selection of 2022 cars, trucks, and SUVs to find the vehicle that's right for you. Need maintenance or repair? Let our skilled technicians take care of your vehicle, and we'll get you back on the road safer than before. We're not here just to sell you one car. We're here for the long haul. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did in a state yesterday and I looked at 35 pieces, well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few...
If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Last time we had Tony Altimore on, he was back when things were changing. Big 12 was expanding with the 4 new schools, and then there was still kind of, well, what about this team or that team? And there were some I don't know if we want them in our conference. Tony had graphics to kind of back all that up, and he now joins us. Sikkim.
No, we're still waiting on him to join the Zoom.
Oh, he's going to be on the Zoom. Oh, that's right. We're a little bit early, actually. We're a little bit early. I'm sorry about that.
Well, but I can't update a story.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, hold on. Forgive me. The emphasis of this NIL guidance is on boosters in the recruiting process and not intended to question the eligibility of prospective enrolled student athletes involved in NIL deals. That's from the D1 Board of Directors in the NCAA today, where they've released the official guidance on NIL and all this retroactive stuff, maybe punishing them. They said only the most serious actions that clearly violate the published interim policy would have eligibility implications for athletes themselves. So they're not going to go back and, retroactively do that because they know that they can't. But if enforcement found something that was egregious and violated the other policy, then they could. But
you think Miami's egregious?
What's egregious? I mean, where's our line?
I don't
know what the line is.
By the way, John Ruiz actually, after that quote about him telling the player who wanted more money, I don't renegotiate, and then that player looks like he's still looking at the NBA, but he's no longer in the transfer portal. He actually, in a story that was written through the weekend and on Monday came out, said something about, hey, we kind of have a pretty good detail of what we do, of when we pay and the details. So, he felt pretty confident.
LifeWallet.com's not, it's not a, I don't know what their actual corporate practices are, but it's not like it's some random company that came up out of nowhere. It's been there for a while. The guy made his money somehow, so he's got some at least legitimacy to him in that regard. And so, I don't think, and the shady part is, what I think people are saying is shady, and is that a coach can just call you up or somebody can call you up and say, hey, we can offer you this, and that's happening, and get in the transfer portal. But as far as, everything else that's going on, I would say 90% of it probably or more falls right into the guidelines set by the states. Because if you're a company that has that kind of money or a group that has that kind of money, you're not going to risk losing it when all you have to do is follow some pretty broad little guidelines.
Yeah, you probably have your own compliance like they have at schools, programs in the NCAA, and your own companies as well. We're now joined by Tony Altomar, again, a strategy consultant. He's been with us before on what was going on last fall and who was in, who was out, who was this, who was that. Tony, you sent graphics to us. I guess it was late Thursday. And here's Armstrong. We're going to have Tony on, or can we do a split screen with the graphics as well? How do we want to do this? You let me know. Okay. He's going to try to
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there you go. I'm sorry, Tony.
Okay, I'm so sorry, guys.
That's fine. We got you.
We've been having little Zoom computer nightmares here.
Okay, we're good. So let's get you. You sent us a graphics package, and I know there's another one that was sent today, but the one that said Conference Realignment Impact Look Back.
Yeah.
Let's
pull
go.
That up.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I had to reboot the computer and everything here.
That's okay.
So one of the things I thought was kind of interesting, that I thought you and your audience would find interesting, is looking at conference realignment and thinking about who got the bids and who didn't. There was a university study that came to the conclusion that I think is wrong, that what conference you're in and changing conferences doesn't help you as a school. And what I found in doing a lot of research and a lot of data is that is very much not correct. And what I think actually the thing is it's not just a question of like, did you change conferences? It's a question of, did you make an upgrade? Like, if you want to think of it in a better way, like to hang with the cool kids. Like, how do you get as an organization? Because there's two levels. There's the sports level and then the organizational level. And in both of them, you want to elevate your university to be as good as you can. And when they look at realignment, they failed to do this. And there's a couple like phenomenal examples of schools that I think are really interesting to look at and think about, that we have not really paid enough attention to. And the data, when they look at them, some of these academic studies are actually wrong. So I'm going to share right now. I think I can get this screen. It's actually, Armstrong, it says host participant is disabled screen sharing. So whoever can just let me do that real quick, I'll pop that up. So what I kind of did is looked at with some of the past examples of historical realignment, like who got in and who didn't. So we'll take a look in just a second at like the huge drama that happened. I don't know if you guys really know very much about, which your viewers would find fascinating, the massive disaster when they created the Pac, what's today the Pac-12 in the 1950s. Amazing, massive sports drama. And can you guys see that now?
Yeah,
we can see
some
it.
script. There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
And so anyway, when they created that, for example, they banished Oregon and Oregon State and Washington State to die alone in the woods, and they almost left them there. In which case they would probably have ended up in maybe the WAC, possibly the Big Sky. And like, think about how different it would be today. I mean, Kirk Schultz wouldn't be at Washington State if they were in the Big Sky. And so some of those are kind of interesting. So what I kind of looked at, and this kind of goes to some of the stuff we looked at before, I call it the big league conferences. I'm generalizing. It's sort of like the A5 and sort of their precedents, including the Southwest Conference, the Pacific Coast Conference, which is not the Pac-12. They try to pretend it is, but it's not. And then the Eastern Conference, which is another like thing that a lot of your readers, I think, would find fascinating. And you see the little explosions. They've blown up a couple times. So the first one I thought was interesting was thinking about like winners versus losers, like who got bids and who didn't. And there's a phenomenal book called What If that looks at some of these that a guy wrote. He's a really great columnist. But I mean, if you think about it, where some of these places were when they got their bids. So like think about Utah. And I'm sorry, they're doing some construction here. Utah actually very much engineered their Pac-12 bid when they did that in 2010. That's another fascinating story, but they were not that much different than Colorado State. Today, they're in the AAU and, a hugely respected institution. Michigan State, when they got their Big Ten bid, helped catapult them into 6 national championships and AAU membership. The big thing is what we find is that a lot of these schools that wanted the AAU memberships and the R1s got that really sort of by being in with the universities that did. Mm-hmm. So if you think about Oregon State and Washington State, Arizona State again, these are all schools that came into expansion in the Pac in the 60s and 70s. There wasn't that much difference in the 60s between the New Mexico schools and the Oregon schools. And in fact, the Oregon schools were hated much more as being anti-sports. The Oregon schools were opposed to big-time sports in the 60s. In the 50s and 60s. It's why they blew up the Pac-12. They weren't that much different than New Mexico and Mexico State. Look at where they are now. I mean, Oregon hugely advantageous to them academically and athletically. The big one is Washington State and Idaho. Washington State and Idaho are 6 or 7 miles apart. They're right across the border, right there, both on the border together. They've been like rivals and best friends. I think they're closer than USC and UCLA. They were both in the conference together up until they both got expelled or sort of, thrown in the blowout. And the difference is huge. I mean, Washington State is a much more global, much more successful university because of that. What's really interesting as well is the Arizona schools. When you look at them, Arizona and Arizona State did not want to join the Pac. They got pushed by the Arizona schools and their regions forced them into it. And today, President Crow is like, it's the best thing that ever happened to our school. Danny White agrees as well. And the really interesting one, Stanford was in a huge huff when they were forming the conference and it would have gone to San Jose State probably if Stanford had not said yes at the very last minute. Stanford's athletics obviously thrived in the Pac-12. This is, we talk a little bit about realignment.
I love that. God, the way you could do this.
You guys covering the realignment of the Pacific Coast.
Yes. Back in the day. Yeah.
Whatever happened, just remember what's happening today is nice and easy in comparison to what happened before. So the other thing I thought was really interesting too is taking a look at schools. And there's a lot of data that goes behind this. I just sort of simplified it here because it's easier to see, just sort of look at the logos. But to think about cast-offs, like teams that everybody got, that left a big league conference and then came back. How did the organizations really succeed? TCU has thrived in the last decade or so, and SMU has done very well too, but not at the same acceleration rate. You see the same thing, Louisville and Memphis. Houston, their president has them on a rocket ship, and Rice is one of the best schools in the world. What are they, number 17 in the country? Mm-hmm. But they haven't really, rocketed, done anything groundbreaking since then. It just very much seems to me that when we look at this, being in a big time conference that puts you with those institutions you want to be around propels you no matter what. South Carolina and Sewanee, of course, is always the easy joke, the University of the South. They were an SEC game. Alabama at Sewanee was a conference game. What really you think about like Sewanee and Vanderbilt, like what's the difference between them back in 1940? Not much. How much advantageous was it for Vanderbilt to be part of the conference that they're in? And then, Tulane and they just, in Georgia Tech, Tulane blew it in leaving the SEC. Today, Tulane's in a wonderful, phenomenal school, but think about really just like what another level I think they would be on if they hadn't left. This is sort of a little kind of joke for you guys as well. If you were covering the Oregon schools back in the day when they were sort of exiled, so those schools were cast off, banished from sports until, I don't know if you guys know this, but 7 of the 9 Pacific Coast Conference CEOs, presidents and chancellors, were fired or forced out or retired after their big scandal. Just a massive disaster of a scandal. And it wasn't until everyone from their administrations was gone that they were allowed into the new conference and have thrived since then. Now, this is one I think is really interesting. So this is sort of joking. I called it quitters versus losers. So teams that used to play big time football and stopped versus teams that just traditionally lost a lot. I think you see like this one's kind of stunning to me because teams can stink and not do really well for a long time but be in the associations thriving as institutions. And then when the time comes, thrive.
Yep.
I think Baylor's a great example of this. There were decades where Baylor wasn't a real football power, but Baylor stayed in the midst of it. Didn't just like be like right isn't over with Rice. And look today, Baylor's on top of the world, ready for Dr. Livingstone to launch the institution into higher stratosphere. Same thing with Vanderbilt, Stanford, Wake Forest, Northwestern. Northwestern's especially interesting because Northwestern was like they pleaded with Northwestern to join the Ivy League in the early 80s. And they were awful in the Big Ten. Awful.
Yeah, they and Kansas State, to me, Gary Barnett at Northwestern and Bill Snyder at Kansas State were two of the most unbelievable rebuilding or rebuilding job. Not even rebuilding because there was nothing built. The most amazing turnarounds in college football history.
Oh, completely. And Pacific and Stanford is an interesting one, too. Pacific was actually coached at one point by Amos Alonzo Stagg. Pacific is one of the teams that was looking to replace USC, UCLA, and Berkeley in the Pacific Coast Conference until they got fully dissolved in a coup. They weren't that different from Stanford back in the day. And today there's a huge difference. Look at Villanova. Villanova was the stupidest one of all. Joe Paterno, Swami that he was, understood the importance of conferences, and Joe Paterno wanted the Big East to have a big football conference. And Villanova was the one that cast the deciding vote that kicked Penn State or vetoed Penn State from the Big East.
I did not know that. Paul, did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, today Joe Paterno. This is fascinating stuff. We can go over another time, but Joe Paterno really pushed. He saw the conferences happening, and a lot of it had to do with sort of what happened with Penn and the Ivy League. Kind of interesting stuff. But Paterno was the one. He wanted Penn State. They created what today is the A10. It had another name back in the 70s, and it wasn't quite working. People were defecting to the Big East, and Penn State wanted in the Big East, and the Big East got all snotty and said, "Oh, you're not very good at basketball, so no." What's his name? I think Mike Treghese was the one who said it was the biggest mistake we ever made.
Hey, okay.
So this is you guys covering Baylor. You can lose for a lot of decades, and all of a sudden you don't lose anymore.
Wait a minute. That picture has Armstrong in it, Jack McKenzie in it. We got to get to your picture, crew. Emory. We got to get Emory, and we got.
I repurposed something.
Well, that's okay. Got Grayson. Is that Evan Miyakawa?
Yeah.
Got all your people.
Yeah.
Got all your people.
The Jennifer Smoak?
Yeah.
Well, the commissioner, I actually have something else to send to you guys that sort of relates to this, but the commissioner always hangs with the coolest people.
She's with RG3 and Dr. Livingstone.
Yeah. No, the commissioner is all of these. You'll notice the commissioner is with the coolest people.
Oh, my Lord.
Lateral defectors. So this is actually where the academic research got interesting. because this is where they find that there's not a big difference. And the flagship examples of this are Nebraska and Colorado, Syracuse, Maryland, UConn, Missouri. The schools that didn't sort of make a big jump in their new conferences. And this, I think, is deceptive info from some of the academic studies, because some of these schools got forced into it. Like the collapse of the Big East, Syracuse and BC really got screwed over by Harvard, Princeton, Yale, when they created a league before the Ivy League, and it was a stupid idea. Your readers, if your readers ever find it fascinating, I can make a video for you or something on it. But it really sabotaged and torpedoed Northeast football. And so they never recovered from that. And then they got saddled with the Big East, adding insult to injury. And so, they really weren't on an acceleration. Usually when we see realignment happening, when realignment succeeds, it's because an institution is on an acceleration track. You look at Michigan State. Michigan State was the Michigan Agricultural College in 1920. UCLA was not even created. They seized a junior college in 1919, finally decided to make it a real school in 1926. 30 years later, 30 years from an agricultural school and a not existing school on a seized junior college. They were playing for the national championship, both getting into the AAU and both ranked in, the top 20 schools and the 30 schools in the country academically. So
Tony, let me ask you this. Because of what you just said about UCLA or others who have, in some cases, benefited because they've joined conferences, this
one's for you to fix Nebraska. Go ahead.
No, you can't fix Nebraska. Nothing. Does this give, at least, even though it's modern day, anybody hope that is being left out, at least for right now, among the Power Five? Is there a story to tell because of what the story you just told us with
Absolutely.
UCLA?
Well, there's a couple stories to tell. One of them actually is that you take a look at. Actually, let me just flick back to this one. One of the stories to tell is that if you get in, you want to get in because you want to hang out with the best schools. One thing about the SEC, you'll notice the SEC has made a major academic upgrade in its expansion. The SEC is only adding great academic schools. They don't talk about that as much, but they are. It's OU and AAU members only are what the SEC has added. So for example, a school like SMU that's trying to get their R1 and trying to get AAU down the road, Memphis just got their R1, those type of schools, there is success when you start hanging with those in that better rarefied air. And so you want that. And, a school like Boise State that's on a trajectory, they may not necessarily fit with the Pac schools, but whatever they can do to make that acceleration happen helps. We also see it with the Big East that you can also grow a conference. And, I think there's something to be maybe said for the AAC and they're starting to do it a little bit, but they've got some powerhouse academic schools in the AAC. And, if they could really churn, to sort of link up their disparate parts, I think they could have some interesting success. I thought this was interesting. So the Ivy League got real snotty when they were founded.
I love this page. I read this page. It's amazing who wanted it or got close to it but didn't get in.
And Stanford and Cal wanted it bad because UCLA was cheating. They are the most rampantly cheating school in the history of anything that I've ever seen. It's actually a hysterical drama that they caused. They're very lucky that their coach died with a hooker in a hotel room very publicly, because it would have been a massive disaster. They had to fire their chancellor, all sorts of stuff. UCLA, by the way, cheated so rampantly that their chancellor was not allowed to vote in the original Pac-12 until 10 years after it was founded, because he was not trusted. They were not trusted as an institution. So in the midst of all that mess, Cal and Stanford tried to join the Ivy League. When they created the Ivy League, it was really a betrayal in a lot of ways of a lot of the schools that they had traditionally played, because it was just this very loose association of the 8 schools. And then they said, boom, we're creating a conference. Boom, we're dropping you all out. Peace out, guys. and it made a huge mess in the East that, again, still reverberates today in a lot of ways. Then when they were being downgraded to what's today FCS, Division I AA, they were scrambling, and they were desperately like trying to like get people to join who could keep them in Division 1A. And they were, and so the reports are actually a little sketchy. What's the newspaper reports? What does a source say? Because these are not. I went to one. They're wonderful, but they will not admit their faults very publicly. So we don't know exactly who they said yes and no to. But in 1978, Army and Navy officially applied to join the Ivy League and were rejected. By 1981, they were pleading with Army and Navy to join them along with Northwestern so they could keep their 1A status, probably with, it looks like, Duke and William and Mary and Holy Cross. And everyone's like, no, you drilled your own holes in the boat, let it sink.
Well, it's interesting to me that you have, especially based on the academic standards that it takes to get into the service academies, that would have been a nice thing for them to have.
Well, I think Army was actually, maybe Navy too. One of them was, I think it was Army, was actually a signatory in the original Ivy Group agreement. And in fact, what the Ivy League did is they used to have all these. They had this thing called the Eastern Conference. It was actually, today it's the ECAC, but it was sort of a combination of all these different like sports federations. And what the Ivy League did is they just plucked their own all in together to create it. But the baseball one still had Army and Navy until 1992 is when Army and Navy were finally officially separated from the Ivy League. They were part of the deal the whole time. Here's a laugh of you guys covering Cal and Stanford trying to join. Harvard was Regina George and said no.
Smokey does not get that reference because he's not seen Mean Girls. But
okay,
I don't think I have. No.
Supposedly said yes were Penn, Cornell, and Dartmouth. So we threw in JD to be Cornell.
Absolutely, JD in the corner left. That's good. I love the Dartmouth mascot. That's awesome.
That is literally one of their mascots. And then I thought this was interesting, kind of here. The idea of you don't have to be in a big league. You don't have to have big league sports. Like it can play a great role, but it absolutely doesn't have to. So these are all AAU members, Ivy League, so two of the Canada U Sports. The UAA schools, Caltech, MIT, 5 campuses of the University of California that don't play FBS football. These are all AAU schools. And one of the interesting things that they've sort of found is that if you can harness sports and make it work and harness a conference to make it work, you can do amazing things. But just like deciding you're going to do it and pumping money into it actually doesn't necessarily guarantee success. And funny enough, if you take the same dollars, I know that Coach Riley will be a wonderful success for us, so I'm not using that as an example. But if you were to take what's USC pumped $200 million into football in the past couple of years, and you pump that into, donor recruitment and marketing and student targeting and all that, you actually could come out ahead more. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of an interesting thing. And then, and again, something else to think about for the future. You look at these places. Penn is actually fascinatingly, and we talk about realignment. Penn was trying to go big time. And they were on the very verge of it. And in fact, that was what caused the Ivy League to actually formally be founded. Was Penn was making too many waves as a big time football school. And so, for example, when Harvard tried to plant, because Penn had a guy that wanted to be president of the United States was their president, Harold Stassen. And so when they tried to get real snotty at Penn and they canceled a couple games, Penn said, okay, well, you guys are not actually, you're just not good enough, so you're afraid of us. So we're going to place it with Ohio State and Notre Dame. And then the Ivy League schools freaked out and they agreed to some concessions and they got together and they agreed to a round robin schedule. That led to the creation of the Ivy League. And within 3 years, they were doing all the sports together. But, again, there are great stories and interesting elements of, folks that don't necessarily come from the big time conferences. So, there, of course, the commissioner is surrounded by the Kennedys and the Roosevelts. But, you look at little things like, the old school Princeton basketball team where used to run around the country doing 3-on-3s. It was Craig Robinson, Michelle Obama's brother, and Arnie Duncan. So, some of these schools that are in that list of like, folks that succeed without being in the big time sports, they can make it work. And so, you look at Rice as an example of that. But I think that we sort of see throughout history, if you can harness the conference wave, and get those bids, you can really do amazing things, especially for the folks that are a little bit sort of clinging on the edges. Again, just think about Washington State and Idaho were twins, and they're kind of closer than USC and UCLA, and they, I think, have sort of met some different institutional fates as a result.
It's incredible. Yeah. Tony, some of the questions on the chat room, and I know you got to go, and we're up against the 5 o'clock hour, but from Floyd Samuels, who told Tulane to leave the SEC?
So, Floyd, there's actually some great articles on that. Tulane and Georgia Tech both got kind of cocky and thought that they could like run national schedules and sort of be like Notre Dame. Again, if you guys, anybody who's in your chat right now should get the book. You can just get it off on a Kindle called What If, that has some really cool questions like this. That looks at, like, I think they have one like if Georgia Tech had stayed in the SEC, because one of the other things that's interesting is when you look at the Big Ten, Michigan got kicked out of the Big Ten at one point for like cheating real bad in 1912 or 1910 or anyway. It was when they added Ohio State, and there's some question of Notre Dame was, of course, desperately trying to get into a conference at the same time. And when they looked at that, Notre Dame probably could have been in the Big Ten. And you think about, these schools, there's schools that really have some factors that they can make work culturally that allowed them to succeed as independents. Other people couldn't do it. Notre Dame, because they're the Catholic school, they're the icon of all of that. They really make it work. USC and UCLA have this crazy spirit together that's sort of intertwined that allowed them to thrive in a lot of ways, both academically and as athletic schools, even after they were sort of their down period of the cheating of the 50s. And by the way, the cheating of the 50s is now all completely legal. And actually, what was the huge scandal that created the whole Pac-12 in the fiery mess, actually, just today was what we would just call athletic scholarships. They just weren't allowed at the time.
Tony, as always, and also I want to share this from Gerry on the chat room as well. Best guest of the past calendar year with Flames. Back the pack. # West Coast. Thanks for your time,
tell
man.
him fight on.
Thank you, Tony. Let's stay in touch, and you're on the chat room. You're on the text line with us all the time, feeding us information. We appreciate you as always. That's a lot of work, and we damn sure do appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
That's great stuff. Archer Quick, UCLA, some things never change. Also, it's just cool. And the graphics of adding, depending on what the topic was, like the Ivy League with all the various presidents and even Meryl Streep and others who have been graduates of Ivy League schools.
The part we didn't glaze over is the coach from UCLA in the 50s dying in a hotel room with a hooker, which has to be the most awkward funeral in the history of funerals.
Yeah.
What do we say about Fred? Well, Fred's here. All right, you guys can meet us at the cemetery.
Yeah,
he had a lust for life and other things as well.
Tim Brando joins us next on Many Things College Football as well. But I saw, it's weird you say that, not about this, but I saw a hearse, the lead car and a hearse leaving a church the other day, and there was no other cars behind it. I don't. Is it someone that just everyone else is gone? I don't know. That was kind of a surreal moment, and because I was on my way, it was on Cobbs, and I'm driving down Bosque, and I'm like, am I supposed to turn?
Okay.
I don't
know what you're talking about. I was right at the light, and the police motorcycles came, and I thought, oh man, we're going to be here a while. I put my car in park before I could, but as soon as it hit park, the last car was gone.
No. But there wasn't. This was the lead car, the black, real nice Cadillac or whatever it would be, and then the hearse, and it was over.
Yeah, I said
it was kind of very, very surreal. All right, like you always hear, who's going to show up at your funeral? And I hope that was just a weird.
I've pre-booked some celebrities.
You have?
Just in case, minor ones. Through Cameo. They don't have to send me a video. They just...
How about if some of them go before you?
Well, I mean, that's what you have to do a lot. I mean,
okay. When we come back, Tim Brando on the NCAA and whatever they're trying to get done. Paul updated a little bit about what they're trying to do with the NIL and more. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, maybe used to be. As you get older, your testosterone levels can drop to a level below what is normal, to a level below that can affect your energy, sex drive, or even your focus. It happens. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. One of what I mentioned. You might have none. You're the 2 of the 3. You might have 1, 2, or 3 of those symptoms. And if you do, here's what I want you to do. You go to pettyclinic.lowt.com online, top left-hand corner. There's a phone number and an email. Contact them and tell them I sent you. And then they will set you up with blood work. Dr. Petty will look at the lab results, and if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase it so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. It's that simple. pettyclinic.lowt.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Brad Boozer, Boozer Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show. Whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Backfield for Bohanon. He'll throw it. Now steps up. Wants to run. Bohanon to the corner. Touchdown Bears. Feet don't fail me now. Gerry Bohanon with his best rushing performance of the season.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Here's David Smoak and Paul Catalina.
We always like to get a little truth serum. We try to give it to you ourselves, but then there's Tim Brando. Fox Sports joins us and has been a guest of ours many times, and we damn sure do appreciate his time and friendship as well. Tim, the NCAA all of a sudden is worried about the NIL. It's out of control. They're going to fix it.
It's laughable. All of it. I mean, it's just absolutely laughable. So a group of presidents, probably those that agreed on giving Mark Emmert another 4 years at $3 million per, even when Mark thought, you know what, this isn't going well. At least Mark was smart enough to know that he needed to get the hell out of there. Even though he didn't do anything while he was there, he was smart enough to get the hell out. I mean, you don't put the genie back in the bottle. I'm sorry. It just, how are you going to enforce this? How are you going to get any clarity? It's pretty clear. Jack Swarbrick has already said. Gene Smith, his contemporary and colleague at Ohio State, has already said what their thoughts and plans are. I mean, other than governing a very profitable NCAA men's basketball tournament, the NCAA is powerless. And, you know, I'll have to look at some specifics. I haven't, to be perfectly honest with you, looked at all of them. But the headline that I read this morning before I went out to play golf, and I just got back home from the golf course, was just insanity to me. You know, and at best it's 15 years late. At best, it's 15 years late. And how are you going to enforce it? Is this your way of trying to keep your infractions people in place so that they don't lose jobs because they really can't? All the things that they were investigating now are illegal. I mean, what is it? Sounds like a play to keep some people's jobs within the structure of the NCAA to me. I mean, that's because I don't know how you're going to enforce any of this. You know, this notion that you're going to be able to go in and suddenly stop the collectibles that are already in place, or you're going to try to prohibit some from doing it after it's already been done other places. I mean, I don't know how you figure that. I don't know how you do that. I mean, I just don't. It is absolutely laughable that the NCAA would try to make us believe that they somehow have gathered any power in Division I college football.
Tim, I've been thinking about it a lot. I mean, and we'll probably given more thought to it than I probably should, and should have gone about living my life. But
everybody has, yeah. But get in line.
If you boil it down to what, you know, quote unquote crime would be committed that they could investigate, the only way that you could prove it, or the only thing that's really illegal, would be Booster X calling Recruit Y at a different school and saying, why don't you get in the transfer portal? But if I don't have subpoena power, I can't prove that phone call ever happened.
Right.
all I can say is like this was a fortuitous bounce for the player that he got in the transfer portal, and he now is, promoting so-and-so for the University of Miami or USC or whoever.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they think they're really going to do.
Right. I mean, in my mind, particularly given what we've seen take place with, that FBI investigation on college basketball, you saw what happened. Auburn basically skated. Kansas basically skated. I mean, other than Will Wade, who went well and beyond the pale of dignity, got canned, and they had him on wiretaps. So, I just don't know from an infractions and enforcement standpoint right now, at any level, even with the FBI's help, that the NCAA can really get much of anything done. And name, image, and likeness has been now in play, and the schools have gotten basically their firms. They've replaced their compliance people with NIL people, and so because compliance is like, what's the deal? I mean, yeah, you might want to keep a compliance person just for checks and balances, but you really need to have an NIL firm that's helping you at least keep up with what's going on with your players. With name, image, and likeness. So, I just think it's way too late, and it gives more fodder for people in your business and obviously my business to discuss during the silly season. But I don't think that there'll ever be any teeth to it from the NCAA's perspective as it relates to putting together any kind of regulations that would hold, that would not block, antitrust, and anyone that wanted to bring a case against the NCAA if they tried to enforce any infractions on this particular issue, their record in court would remain intact. O for Tarkanian, O for everything. That's just about the way they wind up every time they go to court.
We could start every show, and it seems like we almost do with a new NIL deal or a story or this and that. You're right, it does add fodder to what otherwise may not be there, and then the transfer portal on top of that as well. So what was your reaction? I don't think we've had you on since the K-State Nigel Pack signed an NIL deal with John Ruiz, who does his thing in Miami. And then a player on the Miami team wanted more money, and actually Ruiz quoted, "I do not renegotiate deals." What was your reaction? Because that, to me, if there was not as if you needed any kind of red flags, but was that one of the ultimate red flags right there that went?
Oh and the basketball player, the Isaiah Wong, that's another one that's out of control. There are isolated cases here where it's purely pay for play. And look, a lot of the guys, of the veteran players, for instance, the football story, the one centered around Addison, the wide receiver from Pitt that won the Blitnikoff. Look, this is a young man that's already played he's what is it, 3 years or 4 years? I think it's 3. Maybe I'm not sure. He's put in his years. He's only got 1 year to hit on NIL. So, yeah, he wants to go where he thinks he can get the best possible deal. That's what the upperclassmen are attempting to do. If you're an incoming freshman, then I don't think you're trying to hit the Brinks armored truck just yet. You can do it more in time. Listen, I believe all of this, and the doomsayers are they're just so out of control, because all they're hearing is what coaches are having to say. The only story that we get, whether it's a great writer from The Athletic, a great writer from Yahoo, name that great writer, what are we getting? We're getting coach speak. Okay, we're not hearing from the players. We're not getting that side of the story ever. So we're getting nothing but doom and gloom because, this coach or that coach who was not prepared for this, and I don't think any of them were, because college athletics as a whole wasn't, are saying, it's unsustainable, it's the wild, wild west, it's this, it's that. Hey, guys, you're making $7, $8, $9, $10 million. Some of you make $4, $5, $6, $7 million. Earn it. Okay, it's going to be a little harder now. All that money coming from your boosters is not going to go to your Niagara Falls, Nick Saban, or your Chuck E. Cheese, Dabo Sweeney, inside your football facilities. It's going to go to players now. So you got to make sure that you handle this and govern it in a way a leader should. And that's changing the landscape for a lot of these guys. And look, I understand it's hard. I understand it's tough. But you got to adapt. And just about most of the great coaches I know of always adapted. But this is what the writers are writing about, what the pundits are talking about, and we're only really getting one side of the story because none of the players really want to discuss what's going on. Why would they? Why should they? It's their business. You strike an NIL deal, it's a good one for you. Somebody wants to write about it, fine. But, I don't think that this is going to be the end all of college football as we know it. And that's what's going on that I find so absurd.
Tim, do you think that the powers that be at the NCAA, especially the ones that had an idea of what college athletics should be in their mind and tried to kind of wedge through things that are kind of in conflict with being an American about the rights that we all have for all this time about what a student athlete was, had they just let Chris Webber make money off his jersey in 1992 or, guys sign autographs that maybe all this cut him in for the video game, that maybe none of this would have happened?
Well, yeah. I mean, think about that circus surrounding Johnny Manziel back in, 2013? I think that's right. 2012, 13.
Yeah, 12, yeah.
Yeah, 12. I mean, yeah. I mean, think about that. What a waste of time all of that was. Okay, and what was the other story a couple of years before that? With the Auburn quarterback and
Cam Newton
and that whole with Cam and the bag man. Remember they had the bag man story and the whole Mississippi State John Bond thing was going on. Remember all that? I mean, these are all byproducts. You look back on that, and so much was made of it at the time, and now this all would fall under the why should we care category. But we did, and it clogged up a lot of the airspace, both in the off season and during the season, especially the Cam Newton story when that thing broke. In the middle of the 2010 football season, it's the NCAA. How could they have just sat there knowing what was going on with these two major cases, and not have done anything? Not moved on it in any way, shape, fashion, or form. Their legal people just got absolutely boat raced by what was taking place. And for the Supreme Court to rule as they did when they did, 9-0, okay? I mean, a slam dunk 9-0. And here they are now trying to, as I said earlier, put the genie back in the bottle. Good luck with that. I just think there's a few of those holier-than-thous that fall into that strong academician category that are suddenly so upset that this is happening. They're hearing all that they're hearing from the media, and they're now trying to act like they actually have power when everybody knows that they don't.
What'd you shoot today, by the way, Tim?
I rallied for an 82, 10 over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a birdie on one on the front, but I had a couple of dubs coming in. Got a little tired. It got hot out there today.
Oh yeah, it's steamy.
It was the warmest today in the last 5 or 6 holes that I've played in all spring. So, but I rallied, made a nice par save on 17 and a par on 18. I closed it out with I shot 42-40, so it was a good day.
Well, it's better than a 40-42 because he felt a little bit different. When I had a back nine the other day, I shot 37-43. Imagine if it would have been the other way around. It just frustrated me. Yeah, it's different.
That's golf.
Yep. So in the end, do you feel like we've seen expansion? We know what eventually the Texas and Oklahoma, whatever it's going to be. The American Conference is working with Cincinnati, UCF, and also Houston to allow them to what appears to be joined next summer with Brigham Young ahead of schedule. There's still work to be done there. What do you think in the end? Where will we be? And TV contracts have a lot to do with this. Where will college football's Power 5 be, in your opinion, in, let's say, 10 years?
Wow, that's a great question. I think it's going to change by the time the new TV deals are done. Okay, so after the Big 12 gets its commissioner, and by the way, who's that going to be? You guys enlighten me? I've got some ideas, but there doesn't seem to be a hot candidate for it right now. I will tell you, I think being Big 12 commissioner is a much better job than replacing Mark Emmert at his job. Okay, that's the job you'd really want. Okay. And I think that the Big 12 and the Pac-12 deals, the Big 10 is basically done. Okay, Fox is going to be the primary carrier. We know that. That's already been reported. Whoever they pick as the secondary carrier on air, at least there have been some published reports indicating that Fox is helping the Big 10 with that in sort of a consulting fashion. I don't know that to be true, but that's what's being reported by those that keep up with such things, the Sports Business Journal people, John Orand and those guys that are out there covering sports media. But whoever gets the second end of it, whether it's CBS or NBC or even ESPN, which I think, again, could be a bit of a reach because they've got all of the SEC. And for them to get a piece of the Big Ten with both CBS and NBC interested, that's going to be fun to watch to see how that whole thing plays out, given the history between the Big 12 and ESPN, most recent history at least. So we'll see. But the Pac-12 deal also comes after that, and with what George Kliavkoff had to say about at the big Pac-12 meetings last week about the digital, the Amazons and the Apples and all that getting into the mix. Whatever it takes to get the Big 12 and the Pac-12 the money that they desperately need to be at least in the same ballpark with the SEC and the Big 10 is going to, in my mind, that's going to dictate, the direction that we go as it relates to maintaining conference affiliations and not seeing, tremendous realignment moves between now and 10 years from now. Your question was about 10 years from now. I think the notion that the Big 12 was done, and you remember this time last year, that was the notion. Oh my God, Big 12 is done. Some of those teams may even fold into the AAC. You remember hearing all that. Obviously that didn't happen. So we got to be mindful of that. My personal opinion is that we will have 5 power conferences. We may see expansion to more teams coming into the Power 5. Possibly Mike Oresco's P6 could come into play because I think he's done a really nice job with the AAC. Even the teams that are replacing those that he's losing, I think, have some upside. But as it relates to this, it's just going to be 45 teams and that's it. And they're just going to play round robins with each other. And the group of 5 is not going to be a part of this in the mid 230s, which is what Jack Swarbrick indicated. I don't see that. I think the people I talk to that are in positions of power in college football, they want to make as much money for their schools as they possibly can. And the SEC's teams are making like 60, 70 million. And there's talk that the Big Ten deal, once it's all done and they've got the secondary carrier to go along with Fox, and then maybe they do some digital deals. Maybe those schools could get as high as 90 to 100 million per school. Listen, how much is too much? I don't know. I just know this: live sports television is still worth a lot of money, whether they're getting it from digital or they're getting it from mainline over-the-air networks. If the Big 12 and the Pac-12 can stay on footing at 40 to 45 million per school in TV, then I think they'll be able to exist and still be a factor. in big-time college football. The people that I talk to want to make sure that the group of 5 schools, those that aren't getting the same kind of revenue in television rights, are protected because they need them to fill out their schedules. You know, they really want to be able to play some of those games non-conference, maybe not as many, but some of them. And I think protecting the schools that are in the AAC, the Mountain West, the MAC, and so on, those the Sun Belt, they need to be protected. And I really hope that the leaders that are the power brokers, truly the 5 conference commissioners of the power leagues, do what's best, not just for their individual conferences, but for all of Division I college football. And I mean, look, the money's there. They should be happy. It's all about governance, and it's all about leadership. And the right leadership with quality governance, college football will be just fine in 5 years and 10 years and forever. The notion that it's going the way of the NFL and but some of the things that the NFL did, fellas, they need to do. They need to have more networks involved in their postseason than just one. I think they'll do that. I think you'll see multiple networks with the college football playoff when that deal is done after the 2025 season.
You know, Tim, one of the things and we had some pretty good insight from, fortunately, from building relationship over the years. The one thing that Bowlesby and the Big 12 always felt like it helped them once they kind of stopped the tsunami with Texas and OU was the live programming. You brought it up, the live programming. They got to fill time. Networks have time. They got to fill those spots. And that's one of the things that I think they're going to try to, hopefully they can, is take advantage of exactly what I was told and also what you just mentioned as well.
Yeah, well, by example, people have been discussing a little bit the last few weeks about the USFL. And some people have said to me, oh, my God, there's nobody in the stands. And I'm like, well, it really doesn't matter whether people are in the stands or not. They're like, well, what do you mean? Well, you're not paying rights. You know, Fox isn't paying rights for the USFL. They own it. It's theirs. And the teams, I mean, they're basically putting in what they're putting in, $150 million over a 3-year period. They're getting help from the city of Birmingham, okay, in terms of facilities and whatnot. The business model is what it is. And then they got a partner, a television partner in NBC to join them. And, yeah, it's great if there's 10,000, 15, 20,000 people at the games. But if they're not paying rights and they're putting on football games in the spring that are getting numbers that rival or sometimes beat the NHL playoffs, the NBA, and whatever the other programming might be, golf and Major League Baseball, and they're not paying any rights for it, check out what the rights are worth, you know, to those other professional sports leagues right now that those networks are doling out. So if they get a 1.2 rating, that's over 1 million people watching. That might be more than the Capitals and the Bruins got in a playoff game. But you're not paying any rights for it. You know, that's the nature of the beast. Having live sports television is a must in this day and time.
Anything else, Paul?
Nope.
Hey, Tim, as always, thank you very much. Appreciate you being a part of the show and also your opinion, feedback, insight, and loyalty to us. We appreciate it.
You got it, Smoak. All the best, Paul. Great talking to you, too. All the best.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports, just shot an 80. What did he say? 82. 42-40 with a birdie on the front nine.
Now, he did say something that it's kind of interesting, I thought, and this is just kind of a random thing I thought. Okay, Mark Emmert was making $4 million a year. He had no benchmarks.
You know, I actually thought he made more than that. You think about
but about $4 million a year. He had no benchmarks on that. Most of the time when you get that money, the kind of money you have to, like, look, if you're on a television sitcom and you're getting $1 million an episode, like Ray Romano did, what CBS expected was that Everybody Else Raymond was going to be a top 5 show for as long as it was on, because that would mean that paying Ray Romano $1 million was nothing, you know. For the NCAA, $4 million to Mark Emmert, and clearly had no benchmarks for him. To me, like, yes, now I don't know what the job is, but look, that's a job I'd love to have if I'm if I'm being honest. You'd be the laziest person in the world. All I have to do is go on the air, let people call me an idiot, and I get $4 million.
Yeah.
I'll cry about it at my second beach house.
No.
It
just all depends. Can you separate yourself from the criticism? And sometimes that's hard to do. I'm not very good at it. No, not many people really are. You mentioned. I want to get into this because it's been a while. I wasn't here Friday. So Dave Chappelle.
Yes.
So, okay, we've already discussed the Chris Rock, Will Smith. That's, So then now you're a guy who gets on stage, and I know that you were in Dallas the other day doing. So Dave Chappelle gets tackled on stage, and then a guy gets the hell beat out of him. What has happened to the reason why people? What's going on here?
Well, this particular guy was interesting because when they asked him about it, he said because of gentrification in the neighborhood and his grandmother was losing her house. So this guy, I think, was particularly nuts, which to me means you're special kind of weird that you'd pay probably $75 a ticket to go to the Hollywood Bowl at least to get that close where you could go on stage. But yeah, I do think that there's concern. I don't know if it's a wave of things, but the fact that Will Smith, and it was the good news about Dave Chappelle is that a guy went and attacked Dave Chappelle, and then he got the ever-loving crap beat out of him by security, and I think Dave Chappelle. I think everybody kind of got their licks on him, and that guy earned that beating. I mean, really earned it by attacking Dave Chappelle. What happened with Will Smith that I think emboldened some people, and look, I've been in a comedy clubs before, very recently, where we had to pull a guy, like he had to make sure a guy didn't charge the stage because a comedian made kind of an innocuous joke about him, but it was a shot. You do crowd work, you make fun of people. It's sometimes because your material's not working, the crowd's too drunk, you just kind of go, okay, well, here's a bachelorette party here, I'm going to make fun of these girls. And that's what you do because you're just trying to entertain people. You've got, X amount of time to do it, and you want to get booked again. So you try to be as funny as you can, given the circumstances. Sometimes the jokes don't hit. And Dave Chappelle, the jokes always hit. So, or most. I mean, he probably dies less than anybody else, but for people, I think people just think they're now entitled. And the Will Smith thing, the thing that troubles me is that they saw a guy walk up on stage because he's Will Smith, slap a comedian, and not only suffer no repercussions, but win the most important award in his field 10 minutes later. People get emboldened by that, even though, look, I don't care who you are charging the stage of the comedy club. You're not Will Smith.
Are there more people now attacking other people, even at stadiums, because now cell phones, nothing happens without you seeing it. Nothing. I mean, robberies, street fights, nothing. So my question is, and I know we have David Hellman coming up, is it happening more often, or do we now see it because we can see it with cell phones?
I think I would like it to be we see it more. I do think stuff's on the way up because, things have happened in our country that have justified people reducing their staffing. For example, COVID, a lot of companies fired people because they couldn't afford to pay them. Well, COVID's kind of over now in the way that it was when you had to fire people, right? You can still get COVID, but we're not locked down in our houses and, businesses aren't shut down. Things are open. How many of those companies that cut people that might have been security or whatever didn't bring them back because now they're going, oh, look how much money I'm making not having to pay salary and benefits to these three people. So I think those things are going up because there is, look, and this is not even security. Try to go to a restaurant in some places and you walk in the door and well, we only have 3 waiters tonight. It's Friday. Oh, great. Well, why do you only have 3 waiters? Well, normally we have 5. Well, shouldn't you have 10? Yeah. So we're in a weird spot now where there's underemployment in places that there shouldn't be. And, companies maybe need to stop trying to save money because, I can save money all I want. But the minute that, okay, Dave Chappelle doesn't have to sue anybody. He had a security team that took care of him. But say I'm playing an improv, which is a national chain comedy club, and a guy jumps up and beats the crap out of me and maybe stabs me. I don't die. Guess what? I own the improv now.
Oh, yeah.
Was it worth it not to have that security guard? Probably not.
Hey, by the way, I want to close it out and then David Hellman coming up, Paul's Top 5 in 30 minutes. J.P. Thompson on the Tony Altimore segment, he said, hey, what conference realignment move does Tony want to see the most? And I did ask him this, and I'm going to respond to you if you're still listening or watching, JP. I want the Big 12 to be successful, stabilize everybody else. I really wish the Big 12 would 100% copy the Big 10 Academic Alliance. There is also a shot of alliance stuff happening when it comes behind the scenes, like diversity, facilities, inclusion, sustainability. That is cool. I really love the Pac-12, the efforts to start to bring the HBCU teams into the mainstream as well. They are doing a 2-year deal with every Pac-12 team that goes deep south to play hoops at the SWAC. And UCLA is hosting openers in the Rose Bowl with HBCUs for a few years, flying their bands out, and everything is super cool. So, JP, getting an answer to your question. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
I had a barbecue for a friend of mine through this weekend. And whenever I go to a barbecue, I like to stop by and get somebody, maybe a bottle of whiskey or, what do they like? Maybe they like craft beer. So I went to Riverbend Liquor and Wine, and I stopped and I got a bottle of whiskey for my friend who was throwing the barbecue. It's just kind of it's a housewarming gift. I mean, he's been in that house for a while, but we haven't been able to do this in a couple years. So brought that bottle of whiskey over. Where did I get that? Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Great selection. As a matter of fact, this is one of the times where I was a little bit in a rush doing other errands, and I thought it would be nice if they didn't have so much stuff for me to look at, because I was in there for a while looking, was it this, is it that, and to make the great choice, because their high-end bourbons, especially the local source Texas bourbons, are all absolutely fantastic. They've got them all, TX, Balcones, Garrison Brothers, Devil's River. Those are the Texas whiskeys, but just name it, and they probably have it there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus a great selection of craft beers, great customer service, and easy to get through drive-through that's so fast. Check them out on their Instagram page, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, or, look, if you're going to go by, just check them out, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street here in Waco, behind the bank.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, we're committed to taking care of our customers, and that means having as much new inventory on hand for you to choose from. During the Memorial Day sales event, shop our large selection of 2022 cars, trucks, and SUVs to find the vehicle that's right for you. Need maintenance or repair? Let our skilled technicians take care of your vehicle, and we'll get you back on the road safer than before. We're not here just to sell you one car. We're here for the long haul. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Throws it down the field. It's caught at the 10, and this game is over. The Cowboys win it. C.D. Lamb.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com.
All right, here we go. This 5 o'clock hour, halfway through the first hour. Past that point, David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. And David, there's the draft. And now the next part of the draft is after that, you have rookie mini camps. In fact, it's going on throughout most of the teams, at least either now or at the end of the week. Your thoughts about, I don't want to say how they looking now, but your thoughts about who you are more interested in watching when they do whatever they can.
Yeah, I mean, man, maybe I sound jaded, and I think this is a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but minicamp, it's all just changed so much, even over the last decade, but definitely since the 2011 CBA is. I don't really know how much you can expect to learn. I mean, these are going to be non-contact practices. I think they're going to be open to the media on Friday and Saturday. You kind of get an idea for how a guy can move around, but I think it's going to look like a lot of glorified walkthroughs. I think it'll be good to, maybe lay eyes on a guy like Tyler Smith and just see how big and football, how good a football shape he's in for a guy his size, stuff like that. But in terms of actually learning things about how these guys are going to play football in 2022, I think that's kind of a tall order these days.
David, it usually takes a couple of drafts to really figure out what a head coach likes. I mean, Jason Garrett was with the Cowboys for a long time, and it was pretty evident after a couple of years, the kind of players he liked, or the not just the schools, but like the conferences he liked to draft from. He wasn't the Cowboys, not that they didn't have any, but they didn't have a lot of guys from South Alabama. They didn't do that. Mike McCarthy's a little bit different. What have you seen for over 2 drafts of the kind of players he likes to draft and where he values certain positions?
That's an interesting question, because I've never attributed a lot of that to a specific coach. I mean, obviously, Jason Garrett was very involved in the process. Mike McCarthy is as well. But the buck tends to stop with Will McClay, and he sort of puts the process together with input from the coaching staff. I mean, your point is taken, because they've drafted more guys from non-Power 5 schools these last 2 or 3 years than they had in the decade before that. I mean, a guy from South Alabama, a guy from Tulsa in the first round. They drafted an FCS player in the 5th round this year. That's definitely, it's a departure from what we're used to. But more so than anything, if I'm looking at like what Mike McCarthy might value, I wonder how much he has to say about the size of the players that they're bringing in. Because, I mean, you can spot a trend. The Cowboys are just bringing in these massive players. I mean, I just mentioned Tyler Smith. He's 6'5", 324. Micah Parsons was 6'3", 240. It was before Mike's time, but Leighton Vander Esch is another huge prospect. All of these gigantic cornerbacks that Dan Quinn has brought in, these guys are 6 foot, 6'1", 6'3" in some cases, with these 32, 33-inch arms. I know for a fact that the Cowboys were kind of turned off on the Iowa center Tyler Linderbaum because he's an undersized guy. He's only 296 pounds, whereas Tyler Smith has 25, 30 pounds on that. So I do wonder, with Mike McCarthy's history in the NFC North, where you kind of got to play physical, cold weather football, I wonder if we're kind of seeing the effect of him being the head coach with the size of some of these guys they're bringing in.
With size, obviously, a part of what you just mentioned, to follow it up, can you draft what you think is physicality and kind of a little bit of blank between the ears, or a little bit of blank in your neck?
Yeah, absolutely you can, because I think the Cowboys have done it these last 2 years. I mean, again, Micah Parsons is one of the most competitive players I've ever been around. And anybody, I've never met the guy, not yet at least, but people say Tyler Smith plays with a big-time edge in his game. Sam Williams, Ole Miss defensive end, definitely. And then, even down the line, a guy like Damone Clark out of LSU was a noted senior leader there. John Ridgway, the Arkansas tackle. Oh, my God. I don't know if I've never done a feistier interview with a guy who just sounded like he wanted to beat people up. So, yeah, I think you can do that, and it's a big part of it's the unseen part of these evaluations, right? Because we don't get to be part of the interviews and all of the dozens of conversations that they have with these guys during the lead up to the draft. But from an outsider's perspective, it definitely looks like they're targeting players with a bit of an edge.
Which players from last year's draft class do you expect to play much bigger roles this year, and maybe even what could be? I know on a defensive line that really right now we only know about one or two starters, but that could have a big rotation, like Chauncey Golston, Oso Digizua. Who are the guys who might rotate in more and maybe actually be starters?
Now that we've seen what they've added, and I mean, I guess we can't guarantee that they're done adding free agents, but for the most part, this is what the team is going to look like. Now that we know that, I think you can go down the line and make a case for just about every player in that draft class. If they're going to improve, all of those guys need to take a significant step forward. You mentioned Chauncey and Osa. I mean, I would expect Osa to be able to push for, it doesn't really matter if you're the starter on the first snap of the game, but starter-type snaps. Jabril Cox is a guy who, he took a red shirt for most of his rookie season because of an ACL. They need to step up and be ready to play like a starter. Josh Ball, the offensive tackle, is a guy that we didn't see him at all last year. They need him to be able to compete for the swing tackle job, going all the way down to even the last pick in the draft, a guy like Matt Farniak, who the coaching staff is raving about how much time this guy spends in the facility, and he's got guard center flex. I mean, they need contributions from all of these guys because they've more or less elected not to upgrade the team through free agency. It puts a lot of pressure on your draft classes, and none more so than that one. Just because, you can only count on so much from rookies, but these are guys that have been in your program for a year, and you're expecting a lot of, if not all those guys, to take a step forward.
David, the NFL will release the schedule later on this month, but at the same time, they have snuck out a few of the international games, and I know the Cowboys can't be a part of that every single year. I don't know if you thought that they would be or not, but are you surprised when they're not in any kind of international game?
I mean, selfishly, I hate it because it's a free trip to London or Germany. I would love that, and I know by virtue of working this job for so long how many fans the Cowboys have overseas. I can't say I'm surprised, though, because money talks at the end of the day, and the Cowboys don't like giving up home games because of the amount of money they make off of them. And a lot of teams don't like giving up the Cowboys as a road game. Like, for instance, the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's cool and all to say, well, we're playing in London, maybe we can play the Cowboys, but we all know how well the Cowboys travel, and that's a sold-out stadium that the Jags might not otherwise be able to get if they're playing, the New York Jets or somebody like that. So I think the Cowboys' value as a draw is worth a lot to NFL owners. So, I mean, I'm disappointed they're not going overseas, but I can't say I'm surprised.
David, you mentioned in passing about not expecting them to do. I mean, they said they could do something in free agency. Would you expect that closer to actual training camp, or maybe as we get into June, will they do that?
It's hard to look at a spot where you see an easy opportunity to make a move. I mean, the one that makes the most sense is offensive line, but Jerry Jones already came out and said himself that he didn't think they were going to do that. They're okay leaning on young guys. I know James Bradbury was just released.
Yep.
Say what you will about Anthony Brown, but for the amount of money you'd have to spend on a James Bradbury, I'm not convinced it's a slam dunk upgrade to the point that it's worth doing. Yeah, I lean more toward thinking like maybe that's an area where they might have to add at the end of training camp. Or, you know, if they make some signings in July, like before training camp, I would be surprised if it's somebody that's really going to move the needle. I look more toward like the second half of training camp when you get into it and you realize that maybe you've got more depth than you anticipated and maybe you can afford to do a minor trade or something like that. That's kind of what I envision. Because I don't see the glaring spot on the roster where A, there's a need, B, there's a player that fits the need, and C, it works from a price standpoint. I just don't think there are that many options out there right now.
David, as a native Louisianimal yourself, Tyrann Mathieu signs with the Saints. It was such a popular signing that it broke the NFL website for the jersey pre-order jerseys. One, what do you think of that signing? And two, how many people do you know that were affected by the jersey website shutdown?
Oh man, I mean, probably it's. I would guess most football fans I know back home have at least considered buying one, if not actively tried. I mean, I don't think you could understate it. I mean, hometown New Orleans kid who came from the worst upbringing imaginable, who, you know, looked like he threw his career away, turned himself into an all-pro. He's one of the most beloved players in LSU history. He's one of the most beloved football players to ever come out of New Orleans. And now he's going to play for the hometown team. I mean, I'm trying to think of like an analogy. Like it would be like if Robert Griffin III had like a Pro Bowl career and then gone on to sign with Houston or Dallas or something like that. I mean, and I don't even follow the Saints anymore, but I was jacked when I heard it. I can't wait to see him in that uniform. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for anybody with the tie to Louisiana to watch him play down there.
I know we got to go, but next week perhaps we can talk more about your sit-down with Will McClay and his thoughts about Inside the Draft with David Hellman on Mondays with us at 5:30. David, thank you. Have a great rest of the week.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you as well. That's David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. A huge LSU fan, also a Louisianian, as he said before. A couple of quick notes, and then we'll come back with it. We'll break, and then Paul's top five. That book signing, there are two this week. Tomorrow, book signing for Scott Drew will be at the University Bookstore from noon until 2 tomorrow. The Baylor University Bookstore, the book, of course, that we have with Scott Drew on the air last week, The Road to Joy, that's noon until 2 tomorrow at the Baylor University Bookstore. One other quick note. This is all, well, you know what? I might leave this for Craig's Off the Radar. Have you heard about how Formula One in the United States is exploding?
Oh, yeah. It's a big deal.
I'll hold this on for maybe, because who was there?
Brady and Jordan, and I mean,
because he'll have Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Dwayne Wade, Gabriella Union, of course, that's Dwayne Wade's wife, right?
Yeah.
Ashton Kutcher, but Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Help me.
He's a rapper.
Thought it was a bad movie. Patrick Mahomes, David Beckham, and more. The grandstand seats were $640 a pop. They have Austin, Texas coming in October if you're interested. Formula One, it was in Miami. The track was kind of beat up. There were a few people upset about that, but Verstappen was able to win over Charles Leclerc, and Austin will host an F1 race coming up in October.
So an important road was messed up in Miami and they didn't do anything about it?
Yes, exactly.
Shocker.
Esteban Ocon called it a disaster to repave the track before anyone else races on it again. When we come back, Paul's top 5 worst roads in America. Next on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links, and you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice, or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com, or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 things Gerry Bohanon brings to USF. Gerry Bohanon, the latest big transfer, and of course came from here in Waco at Baylor to South Florida, where he will, it's USF. They don't call it South Florida anymore? We're not supposed to say that? Or is...
You know, I don't remember. I know that UCF doesn't like being called, or UT San Antonio wants UTSA.
Yeah. So, but USF, what he brings to USF. Number 5, dual threat potential. He is a better runner than he is a passer, in my opinion, but he developed as a passer enough to make me think that over the next 2 years, with the right coaching, and Jeff Scott's coached some good ones, Deshaun Watson among them, just very recently, to make me think that he and Gerry can have a nice relationship on down the line of developing that and making him better. Remember, Baylor fans seem to even forget this. Last year was the only year we saw Gerry Bohanon in enough to know anything about him. You know, everything else he did before was kind of spot duty and, backup work, and nothing that you would think like, man, this guy's going to be something. It's just like, oh, he's a really good athlete. But what he does bring to the offense, what we saw last year, was an ability to get away from the pass rush when things do break down, which it didn't all that last year, and an ability in the quarterback run game to kind of call any quarterback run you want.
Eric Galco tweeted this out after the news came out he was headed for USF. Former quarterback he has real NFL. Now, I've seen Travis Reeder say this too, NFL talent, which people can debate that all they want. Thoroughly impressed in 2021 with great touch, placement, and timing. Got stronger this offseason, and I was impressed at Baylor's Pro Day. That's from Eric Galco, who's a part of OptimumScouting.com.
Yeah, and Gerry, of course, had to be the quarterback throwing to the guys at Pro Day, so that's why he was there. Number 4, a chance for Jeff Scott to recruit and develop a younger QB. Now, that could be a guy already on the roster, or that can be a recruit coming in, because now, again, 3 wins and 3 wins. Gerry Bohanon gives him that cushion to where he doesn't have to say, hey, Junior, you got to win this thing for me right now. Gerry can give him that cushion, and he's been through enough to where if the season does get off to a rocky start with that schedule, Gerry can take it. Right. That's where a younger quarterback might be broken forever.
Yep. I don't know who this kid is, the young man, and he might be, who knows? I mean, he's not just given the job, but you're not going to go there without at least having some conversation. He's got to go earn it, but absolutely gives, if the younger quarterback will understand that.
And it may not be, it might be the
gratification.
It might be the next guy that gets to benefit from this. Yeah. But, it'll give Jeff Scott, especially if they win a little bit more this year and get those 3 wins, it'll give him that bubble to develop a quarterback for the future, as opposed to having to throw a true freshman in, Mr. Florida football or not. I mean, you're kind of swimming upstream with a very young, inexperienced roster. Number 3, experience in big-time games. Yeah, he didn't play in the Big 12 championship game this year, but he did have to step in and play in it in dire circumstances the first time that Baylor went to it. Then, when you talk about beating Oklahoma, beating Texas, doing all the things that he did last season, played in a really tough atmosphere in a game that he didn't play very well at Oklahoma State, but still played in it, fought hard to the end. He has played in some big-time environments that a lot of the guys on the USF team have not played in.
No.
So he can bring that to them because, what big-time game have they been in the last couple of years?
He's been in some big stadiums, big crowds. Of course, some of the most impressive wins last year were games at home.
The Sugar Bowl, I mean, not his best game, but he was still there. Like, he has those battle scars from the Sugar Bowl and can get better from them. Number 2, just stability. They don't have to go back and forth on who it's going to be. It's Gerry. He's the quarterback. You can go. And it's stability for him. Because like I said earlier, for Gerry Bohanon and Blake Shapen, and this might not be to say that Kyron Drones doesn't get some time this year and impresses people to where that might be Blake Shapen's life in the future, but at least with Gerry and Blake here at Baylor, whoever was not the starter, the quarterback battle wasn't going to end when the starter was named.
No.
It was going to continue to go on, because if one of them had a bad game or got hurt, was out for 3 weeks, the other one played better, all those things were going to continue happening. So this had to happen for whoever lost the job, so to speak. It's stability for Gerry, it's stability for USF, and that they don't, as long as Gary's healthy, have to go back and forth and kind of crapshoot it with, a true sophomore, a true freshman, transfers that are not nearly as accomplished as Gerry. So I think he brings that to them a lot.
You would hope. I mean, if he's got to still go earn that job, but you would think that that's not anything guaranteed, but it brings the roster stability as well.
Number 1, leadership. And
no question.
I know that he wanted to go somewhere and start, but it says something to me about what we already kind of knew about him, in that he's picking a team that's got back-to-back 3-win seasons. He could have gone to Missouri. They're better. He could have gone to Liberty. That team, loses Malik Willis, is going to need a new starting quarterback. They're set up to be pretty good in their conference and win games. He is choosing to go into a place that needs leadership and needs somebody like him to fight through it. And that tells me a lot, because he had offers apparently from Oklahoma. That
was something that Joey Knight brought up. That Oklahoma was interested.
But I mean, he can go there, and of course he'd been in the same situation he left, which would make sense. But you could go there. There's several places you could have gone that are better off right now, at least coming out of last year, than USF is. But And he's been nothing but a great leader here. He wasn't fazed by Blake Shapen and all of that. He knew that was part of it. And I mean, he brings that to USF, and something that, again, it can give the younger guys time to learn about being a leader.
There's a great picture of Gerry Bohanon hugging Blake Shapen after the Big 12 championship game, after the win. He was as thrilled for Blake Shapen as anybody that was on that team, and that's not always the case. There's always some things that could occur. Now, that Whether it would have drawn out this year that way, we don't know. But I think Gerry Bohanon and Chapin both are pretty good people. All right, Paul, good stuff. In fact, on the chat room, Scotty B, love the top 5. Matthew, I'm glad we had Gerry for selfish reasons last year, but I'm glad he's going to be able to go find a coach who can help with the dual threat, because he really should have transferred to a coach that does that a few years ago. And Gerry was very patient. Baylor quarterbacks, for the most part, Jarrett Stidham left after the Art Briles was fired, after he was fired, but most of the time they've been very, very, very good about quarterbacks remaining loyal and committed as far as waiting forever. Even though Nick Florence played early because RG3 hurt. He played that half against Texas Tech when he could have, and he burned a red shirt. He waited a long time for the year he could start in 12. Bryce Petty, we know that story. 1,300 and some days. Hey, one note, Baylor's men's tennis team beat A&M Saturday. They will now host Stanford. How about that in a super regional? 6 Big 12 teams, men or women combined, have moved into the super regional round. Men's tennis will host Stanford this weekend. That's a big-time superstar teams right there in the super regionals on the Baylor campus. All right, for Emory Winter, Jack McKenzie, Armstrong Sims countdown now after today is 2. We're going to get into that a little bit tomorrow. There's transfer portals everywhere. Also to Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak back with us tomorrow. I'm David Smoak. Have a great night. Sick on 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.